And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. It's Monday morning. We're back. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, enjoyed their time with their family. Hope everyone had a healthy Thanksgiving, and now we're getting ready for Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Holidays go quick. Most of it's anticipation. So with that being said, before we get into today's topic, there's a lot of content. I just want to say, just send prayers to the, send prayers to the families of the two National Guardsmen that were ambushed in D.C. and to all the National Guardsmen, all the law enforcement and military that are out there right now. Prayers, and wish everyone safety that have their boots on the ground. So there's a lot of content. John, let's jump right into the content. And as I said, just want to send them prayers.
Horrible, man. Horrible. What we're going to talk about today, too, is actually a direct result of those two guardsmen losing their life. Actually, and then, endangering the lives of these ICE agents and these cops. So, we all saw what transpired on Saturday in New York City, right? Everybody saw the protests. Everybody saw that the NYPD was escorting ICE down the roadway, and they were just being assaulted by protesters. I don't even want to call them protesters. They were being assaulted by paid agitators, along with a lot of useful idiots. And, we continuously been seeing an inept response from the NYPD. When we go back to Melba, Queens, a 45-minute response time, they don't take the report right. And you're like, what the hell's going on in the NYPD? Then you go over to the synagogue, what happened in the synagogue, and the agitators and useful idiots were able to block people from going into praying. And you're like, is it that the NYPD is really that inept under Eric Adams and Jessica Tisch? And while I think that Eric Adams is a complete incompetent, I 100% do. And I think that the people he appointed are completely incompetent. I don't believe that the NYPD is that incompetent. I just don't. I know people that are working there currently. I know people that are chiefs, inspectors, captains, lieutenants, and sergeants, and they know how to get the job done. I personally think they're being set up for failure. I personally think that Jessica Tisch, Eric Adams, and even the Trump administration are all setting cops up and ICE agents up for failure. And we're going to get into that here today. Marlon, what's up, brother?
Hey, morning, guys. Morning, chat. Who we got in there so far? I see you, Mikey G, Sleepy. We got Kenneth Flores. We got Stephen S., good friend of the podcast. How's it going, Stephen? I see Chief Lukash there. Yeah, I hope you guys all had like a great, a great Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, I think that the shooting of the National Guardsman has kind of already been, lost in a news cycle, But I don't know what to think of it, whether it's incompetence or if it's if what the intention is behind all of this. But it does really seem like cops and ICE are all being set up to fail. And I don't know. I think there's a lot coming, and I don't know if we can come to a conclusion on at least that part of it today. But I do think that both sides need to do better, and just have just smarter policy in general.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Leadership is so important for any organization, especially within the NYPD. The leadership that we have and we've had during the tenure of Mayor Eric Adams, the current mayor. Let's keep in mind that he's still the current mayor, not mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. And the failures are under Eric Adams. However, one thing we know about NYPD cops, the rank and file, no matter what, even if the leadership is inadequate or inept, they will still do the job to the best of their capabilities. So are there limitations when you have a failure in leadership? Absolutely. But will they do their job? Yes. But there's definitely an agenda here. They're definitely held back. And there's no doubt about it that the manpower that has been provided to the public is a complete lie. I speak to cops on a constant basis. I spoke to a cop yesterday, and I won't disclose the name, but the cop told me that in a particular command, that 1/3 of the normal roster that they have, that they actually have right now operating, is full duty. 1/3 of what they normally have, they're operating at 1/3, and that's just impossible to do the job possibly. And I do believe that the NYPD always looks for a fall guy. We talk about that incident at the synagogue and the temple, how it was a complete failure. But we know, even if the leadership was inept, if there was a proper amount of cops deployed, despite the leadership, they would still be at that location doing the best they could to protect the synagogue and to protect the protesters at the same time. But the manpower is completely diminished, and they can't do their job. And why? It's because of the failure on the leadership. And when the leadership of the NYPD fails, they look for a fall guy, and that's what they're doing right now.
Well, look, so I think a couple of things. I think one, yeah, 100%. When we talk about response times, when we talk about at a precinct level, when we talk about overall, the head counts down. But when you look at major details, when you look at New Year's Eve, when you look at the Thanksgiving Day parade, I mean, year after year, those kick off without a problem, even in a diminished department, right? So, like, why was the Thanksgiving parade kicked off without a breeze, without a problem? Nothing happened. It was properly staffed. And then you get to this protest, and the NYPD just sends one SRG team, no barriers, not enough manpower. And is it because really no one's working that day? I don't know. I really don't. I don't buy it. I think that even in a diminished police department, the NYPD has no problem shorting precincts. So I mean, if you call level 1, level 2, level 3 of mobilization, you're going to get resources. There's people you could pull out. I mean, there's probably still close to 1,000 people working in one police plaza that day. There's probably still a few hundred people in each borough that day that could suit up, go out, right? And what we witnessed, I mean, to me, was absolutely disgusting. I was like, to me, you're looking for an ICE agent, you're looking for a cop to get killed. Like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a civilian to get killed. You're looking for a real volatile incident to happen. You're looking for either the next George Floyd, or you're looking for just more chaos. Because what we saw was completely inept. And again, I don't believe it's because they don't have the resources. And I think even within Manhattan South and Manhattan North itself, I think this protest could have easily been contained. Like, easily been contained. And the all of the dramatics that we saw on camera with them throwing garbage cans in front of, and I got a million videos we're gonna play, throwing garbage cans and flower pots in front of ICE vehicles and NYPD vehicles. It was very easy to avoid. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you need experienced guys. You need the guys that know how to police protest in Manhattan South and Manhattan North that have been doing it for 30 years. You don't even need those guys. You need a cop with 1 year on the job that's been to a few large protests, and he could have conducted a plan that would have alleviated all of that. I mean, it was done intentionally. Like, it was completely done intentionally, and they set this SRG team up for failure, and they're going to pay dearly as a result of it. You know, they're going to pay, and like, even though like they did the best, in my opinion, you're going to see some things that you might start talk crap about each person is, but they were in the height of insanity and they dealt with it for hours. So you're going to start to make mistakes. You're not going to see everything perfectly, and you're going to be in complete defensive mode. So we'll go through all those videos or whatever. But at the end of the day, it kind of ended up successful because nobody was killed. Nobody was seriously injured. There was only a few arrests, which I think is a failure. I don't think it's a good thing. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen? All those SRG guys are getting pummeled with CCRBs right now. And what? And guess what, guys? Guess what? Your great mayor, Eric Adams, He ain't going to be the mayor when you go in front of CCRB. Not that it matters, because 99.9% of the times, Jessica Tisch agrees with the CCRB anyway. So, but now you got to deal with that under a new mayor, and you're going to have a big problem. You're going to have a big problem, because what you see clearly here is you see every New York City politician, the Republicans are silent. You know, not all of them. I mean, Vicky Palladino is speaking up about it. Joanne Ariola is speaking up about it. But when you look across the board at the Democrats, they're inciting violence. You have the Brooklyn Borough president saying that he's heartened that New Yorkers came out in support of other New Yorkers, throwing garbage cans in front of police vehicles, assaulting cops. You have Brad Lander saying how proud he is of New Yorkers. I'm like, this is the messaging, and you know, to be fair to all of them, this has been the messaging. This has been the messaging. This was Andrew Cuomo's messaging. This was Eric Adams' messaging. This has been the messaging in New York State and New York City for over 10 years. I mean, and I don't know why it came to the forefront today, but these are your politicians. These are who you've been electing into office, and it's absolutely disgraceful. It honestly is. Someone is going to die again, right? Like, what you using that rhetoric as an elected official caused the assassination of those National Guardsmen, and it's going to cause the assassination of police and of ICE.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry if I didn't shout you out just now, Hassan. I gotta say, these YouTube usernames kind of suck. It's really hard to like look at it, and you really have to like look hard, because it's like a jumble of letters mixed in with your username.
Yeah,
but
and it has nothing to do with us, by the way. Everybody keeps asking if we changed anything. That's not us.
Yeah. No, we have nothing to do with that. But it sucks. But you know, I think Tish is in a delicate place where she has, you know, she's in between mayors right now, you know, and I say in between because clearly, again, where's Eric Adams here? Has anybody seen Eric Adams? We're gonna have to put his picture on a milk carton soon. But she's in a delicate place where you know, Eric Adams gave the impression that he was working with Trump when we know he really wasn't, and Zohan has to play nice with Trump, or he's given the impression that he's going to play nice with Trump, even as you know, the people who are protesting there were his base. Really, it's a far left. So she's in a delicate place where I think she's trying not to seem like you know, like they've already promised NYPD isn't going to come and help ICE, right? So they're in a place where she has to give the impression that NYPD reluctantly came and helped ICE, or that you know, it's not her fault, you know. And I think that's probably what's behind the New York Post article, where they mentioned in there how she gave a call to the SAC, and they gave an impression that she basically dressed down the SAC. But I think, again, it's a lot of theater here, you know, and it's you know, we'll probably touch on it, but there are other stuff coming out of her office that, you know, I just don't understand why you're going to be giving a dress down to the SAC when you know, there's other things coming out of your 1PP that kind of it's alluded that the reason why these protesters are here is because of that. But I just we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and we put up a segment about it, how it's politics over actual policing, and we talked about it in regards to what happened in Canal Street, and how you know, they put politics ahead of the conditions on Canal Street and people being able to go to work or come home and travel on Canal Street. And I think once again you're seeing it play out here, where you know, it's just the theater and keeping up appearances is much more important than actually NYPD doing our job, which is to actually you know, keep order in the city.
I think there's some very valid points that we're speaking about right here. So when I speak about the manpower, we can see how the manpower weaves into the agenda, weaves into the politics, the theater, and how it's a trap for the rank and file and how they're set up for failure. And when I say that the manpower is important, and that's why we see inept police work, is because they are set up for failure. And the manpower is extremely low. But when there's planned events that don't have a political agenda, as we were mentioning before, it's well thought out and planned, and the police department does a fantastic job, even with low manpower, because we're able to pull from resources that can allow that and allow for police officers to be displaced from other jobs to actually do these mobile field forces. But in a precinct like the 19th precinct, when they have a synagogue just being pretty much overran by protesters and actually crimes committed, the police officers were set up for failure. And that's why I said, with the limitations and their capabilities, they will do the best job that they can do. But unfortunately, they were put in a position where they couldn't do the right job. The manpower was so low, and they were put in a position where the scene had already escalated. So of course, there's going to be numerous complaints because the police officer already behind the 8 ball. They were sent to a location, and at that location, it was already heightened. It had already escalated. So those police officers, the rank and file, are just set up for failure. I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's something we would do in policing, pretty much 101. You want to address a crowd when there's 2 and 3 people, not before that crowd erupts and just makes it much harder. And it takes hours to peel these things off. So ultimately, John, you made a good point. Ultimately, it was a success, right? No one actually got severely injured. Eventually, it came to a close. But we could see that if we get other protests just as that, eventually, over time, the laws of probability is just going to get worse and worse. And we'll have civilians injured and, unfortunately, police officers. And I've been saying this for a long time. I've been saying this for 3 years now. Eventually, we will see an NYPD police officer, and I hope to God I'm wrong, get killed, not by a firearm, by the hands of another, because of political agenda. And we're just getting to that point. We're teetering around where we're putting these police officers in situations where luck is just going to run out. We have a majority of the police department has less than 5 years on the job. They're being directed with no mission, no vision, failed leadership at the top of the police department. There's no veteran police officers to pass the torch and to protect them. And most of the supervisors right now are young on the job. They lack experience. And also they're put in a position because the manpower is so low that they're just another hand, and they're not actually in a position where they can lead. And I feel sorry for the rank and file there. But there's no doubt about it. There's a political agenda. And you're right. Marlon, you made another great flashpoint here that Jessica Tisch is kind of like in purgatory, right? She's in between mayors. Eric Adams is MIA. And Zohran Mamdani is pretty much seen as the actual mayor right now. So I believe that Jessica Tisch is actually pandering to his vision, and he's not even there yet. So we just see political theater right now for our rank and file. It's terrible. And the problem is what's happening in New York City, what's happening in D.C., is spreading throughout the entire country. So it's not just a problem right now just for New York City, but it's a problem for the entire nation, especially in blue cities. It's just a complete disaster at this point.
Yeah, and listen, I think, I think here's the major problem, right? Like you see them move out of the ICE facility. I mean, who made the call to be like, oh yeah, come on, we're gonna escort you through the streets of New York City? Like, who made that call? Like, that's really what I want to know. Like, ultimately, I want to know. You show up at a scene and there's about 60 protesters, which is nothing. The majority of people there's more reporters than there are protesters, right? It's nothing. So you have a facility, you have protesters in front of the facility. What's the first thing you should do? Let me get a barrier truck over here. Let me get metal barriers over here. Barrier off and coordinate off all the protesters. Media, you're over here. Media, you're over there, right? Now, is there some media that because NYPD, DCPI is a bunch of failures, they won't give us a press pass, but you'll give anarchists a press pass. You'll give terrorists a press pass. You'll give known criminals a press pass. But you're not going to give us because, you don't want anybody reporting the truth, God forbid. So there's people in there with press passes. My point is there's people that you could section off that are press that are actually paid anarchists and paid agitators, right? So, but there's a few of them, right? But you have your people there. Why couldn't you just keep them penned in and barricaded until you move out? You don't have to let anybody know what direction ICE is going. You can make ICE go up the wrong way, right? You could do it for 2 blocks. You could shut down 2-3 blocks, get them out of there. You're not going to have a problem. And so the thing is, like, I'm saying that they made a call with one SRG team and a few cops that they were going to escort ICE from that facility out. And what did they think was going to happen? Exactly that. Maybe worse. Maybe a cop gets run over. Maybe a civilian gets run over. Maybe a reporter gets run over. Maybe a cop gets killed. Maybe an ICE agent gets killed. Maybe they have to kill somebody. Right? And then what? It's even worse. So right off the bat, right there, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, Eric Adams is an absolute disgrace. And so is Jessica Tisch. That was a disgraceful showing of leadership because there was none. You know, she was out with Bill de Blasio earlier that morning, so she was working that morning, right? She knows what's going on. She's the police commissioner. She's going to be kept abreast of these decisions at all times. Now, we all knocked her here because she's a billionaire heiress and she was never a cop. But she has Ray Kelly and Bill Bratton at her call. You just messed up in front of a synagogue where you send an apology. Then that same night, we're dealing with a 45-minute response time, and you guys are trying to fudge the numbers. Like, it's probably time to say, maybe I'm in over my head. Maybe I need some people that actually know how to do police work that I should consult with because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm saying, I don't know who was in on that, but clearly the chief of that borough was in on that response because that is not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. If I was a resident of New York City, I would be infuriated. I would be infuriated if I lived in Manhattan and I owned a business in Manhattan. It's like, this is what you decided to do. You decided to let 60 anarchists just run around and attack you and ICE and not pen them in, not corner them off, not clear streets. You just decided you're going to roll through the streets as they're throwing stuff in front of you. Like, who made that decision? How long have they been on the job? Why are they still on the job? What are they in charge of? Who made that decision? Because ultimately, I'm saying right now, it ultimately always falls on Eric Adams and Jessica Tisch. But, like, who made that decision and why did they make that decision? That is not acceptable. That could easily all been avoided. Easily. You could take a 1-year sergeant and put him on that scene and be like, all right, Sarge, what should we do? He's going to come up, he or she's going to come up with a plan that is going to alleviate all of that stuff that we just witnessed from in the middle of the street. So now your businesses, you can't move, traffic, your business isn't getting traffic to it. People like, what the hell is going on? Tourists are afraid. Commuters are afraid. New York City residents are afraid. This is a complete failure. It's a complete breakdown of the NYPD. And that's why I understand why people get so mad when we talk, because the media is not reporting it. And you know, cops can't say what they want to say, so we're going to say it. This is absolutely disgusting. If I was Jessica Tisch, after this last week of debacles, I would just admit, you know what, I'm in over my head. It's time for me to step down. I shouldn't be the police commissioner of anything because I don't know what I'm doing. And the people around me either really suck or it's intentional. And this is coming down straight from Eric Adams' office, coming down straight from Jessica Tisch's office. And they're setting you guys up to fail. They're setting New York City up for failure. They're setting you up for a really bad scene. And that's what to me, I don't care which one it is. She has no business being the police commissioner anymore. Eric Adams, at this point, New York City needs to start working on a recall option for mayors because it's absolutely disgusting that this man's getting a salary. He's not even working, and that's completely unacceptable. That, like, what we witnessed is it's unacceptable. And you know, like, as much as John Shell and the rest of these losers want to play like we're knocking the rank and file who were out on the front lines, we're absolutely not. We're telling the truth. They were set up for failure. They were told to go along with that move, and it was horrific. That there was no way that was going to be successful. There was no way that decision that we're going to walk you to the streets in New York City was going to be successful. There was no way. Nobody could think that. Nobody could think that. And if you do think that, you should probably go to the sanitation department, because you have no business in policing. Zero.
Yeah, you're thinking too rationally here, John. There's never going to be that sort of recall, because a lot of this is happening in Manhattan, and there are whole neighborhoods that a lot of this stuff isn't touching. So that's one of the problems with I think the way New York City is. It's like a lot of the problems, aren't being faced by every neighborhood. So people become totally detached from it, and they don't see it happening. They don't think of it as like a problem yet, until it eventually lands in their doorsteps. And again, this happened not too far from Canal Street, where again we mentioned the chaos that happened last time ICE showed up there. So think how upset those residents might be right now. Yeah. But again, if they all if those residents continue leaving that area, and that area continues getting gentrified, then I don't think it's a problem for the people in charge of New York City, because I think there is already major plans to build around that there. But I think I have to wonder how many calls for additional help were kind of dismissed, or even how many 911 calls were made that were probably like rerouted, or nothing came of it, because they didn't want to send additional help to that area. I think Tish they just want to do enough to prevent if ICE gets hurt from it, right? They want to do enough to say that, okay, we sent cops, don't blame us for the ICE getting hurt or killed from or one of these protesters, or something else happening there. They just want to do just enough to prevent that, while being able to say it's not Tish's fault. We tried our best. This is all, blame it all on ICE. And I think it goes back to them playing politics with law enforcement. And I think if they keep doing this up, they're actually contributing to the Trump's plans to send the National Guard here, because I already see the narrative being built here that we can't rely on one PP, that we can't tell them anything, because if we do, it's gonna leak out. So you can't trust your local government, your local police department, so we're gonna have to surge this area with National Guardsmen. So unfortunately, this is just going to contribute to what we don't want, which is more National Guard here. When we have a local police department that's more than adept at solving these problems, if given the opportunity to.
So I think the NYPD escorting ICE is not a solution. It's just caused a bigger problem. And I think the reason why is because now we're dragging the NYPD with already low manpower into a mission they can't handle, and we're bringing them in the middle of federal politics, and we're painting a bigger target for the NYPD. We're putting the NYPD to have a bigger target. I don't think that, Marlon, I just don't think that the PC is actually concerned about the safety of ICE, and that's why the NYPD is escorting them. I think it's all part of the agenda, right? The left wants to show why ICE shouldn't be there, and the right wants it to be a complete failure so they could put in a complete military force of National Guard. So I think putting the NYPD there just paints a bigger picture and puts a target on them. Such low manpower, and they're handling missions that they just can't handle. I mean, where's all this amazing technology that we heard from Kaz Daughtry? Why not just have a drone or have some other apparatus, or maybe aviation follow ICE just to monitor it? Why do we actually need NYPD boots on the ground and put them more in the arena where the spotlight is on them? And now we put them in the middle of federal politics. So one thing, John, you said earlier, which I totally agree, and I've been saying that for a long time, The left is always looking for another George Floyd. In order to actually move an agenda, you need chaos. George Floyd, the incident itself, was complete chaos. So when I say they're looking for another George Floyd, doesn't necessarily have to be that type of incident, but they're looking for chaos to move politics. This is all political theater, no doubt about it. And also, what does this do? The more problems that we have with the NYPD and ICE, it leads to more control. Not more restraint where we pull back. It actually leads to more control. Now we need AI, we need robotics, which I've been saying they're going to move policing towards anyway. I do see that policing is moving completely towards AI and robotics, which is just completely sad. And also, Jessica Tisch has to pander to Zohran Mamdani, who will be here very shortly, showing that the NYPD is failing. It allows for more room for this vision of this community safety-based type of policing, especially once the National Guard comes in to show, a humanitarian effort to it. That, that we're not just men with guns. Once the National Guard does occupy most of the city, we'll have this community-type based policing. So there's an agenda on both sides, and the NYPD is caught right in the middle of it. These political leaders and also the NYPD leadership has put the NYPD in the middle of harm's way by putting them in the middle of federal politics. It's exactly what they do. They put a target on their backs.
And here's the thing, right? Like, first of all, how did these protesters and these reporters know that ICE was going to go out on the raid that thing? Now, Scott Michikowski, who former deputy acting director of New York ICE, he put out a statement yesterday saying that the leaks are occurring right from One Police Plaza. The academics in One Police Plaza inside of Jessica Tisch's own office are leaking this out to anarchist groups and probably, not-for-profits and all these other people that are paying the majority of these agitators and rounding up the useful idiots that they have in their circles to go protest these areas, right? We saw the same thing happen on Canal Street a few weeks ago, right? Same thing happened. Right? They just happened to know that ICE was going to do a raid. How? So, while I think that inside of the police commissioner's office and throughout the entire police department, there are leaks, and it's not even that I think, I know for a fact, right? Where does most of our info come from? So there are leaks throughout the entire New York City Police Department. I don't believe that the leaks aren't coming out of ICE directly themselves either. I don't believe that the leaks aren't coming directly out of the Trump administration either, because I think that it's what we're witnessing is manufactured. I think the chaos is manufactured. I think that Marlon's right, and I think that cooler heads should really prevail. Again, I don't believe that there's so much that these people that you're witnessing there. There's a few useful idiots there. There's a few people that will get crazy because they just watch the news and they get crazy over watching people lie to them and being sold garbage. But the majority of those people are being paid, and it's real easy, real simple to identify them. All that needs to happen is that when they actually break the law, what you would do is you would arrest them, you would charge them appropriately, you would go after the people who put those groups together. You would figure out who the ringleaders are. You would charge them appropriately. And then you would do a workup on them and see if, in fact, they're getting paid. And I will certainly guarantee that you're paying their salary. They're taxpayer-funded, paid agitators. And these incidents are being set up for political theater. And I don't think it's a left or a right issue. I think it's all of them are doing. I think they all want this, right? Trump wants to get National Guardsmen in every city. Why? I don't know, but it's clear as day. I'll play the clip of Pam Bondi telling you they're going to put National Guard throughout all of our cities. Why? I don't know. The right's cheering for it. I'm sitting there and saying, well, why are we paying billions of dollars to the NYPD then? Why don't we just start over them? If the police commission is completely inept and the New York City Police Department is completely inept, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Let's start over. Let's defund the police and let's start over and put a new police department together. Start it from the ground up. Let's start with an elected sheriff. Get rid of Horseface. Get rid of Miranda, get rid of all of them, and let's start a whole new thing in New York City together, right? And then the left is like saying, "Oh my God, the ICE is here. They're kidnapping people." It's like, no, they're actually just enforcing federal immigration law, which every nation on earth does, but yet you believe that America shouldn't. So I mean, like we're just being set up for failure on all sides, and then the left politicians are cheering on violence against officers and ICE agents, and they don't even want to be doing what they're doing. You think the SRG team wanted to be there that day? You think ICE wanted to deal with that day? They don't. But they're being set up. They're being used as pawns, and I personally believe it's both sides of the aisle, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I think that the media is complicit in it. And I if Marlon alluded to it earlier with this New York Post article, I mean, I don't know, but what the New York Post is basically alleging that the FBI director was apologizing to Tish. It came out and said this: hundreds of rabid anti-ICE protesters clashed with cops in New York City on Saturday, with Police Commissioner Jessica Tish blasting the feds for putting her officers in harm's way, according to sources. So, I'm sorry, she doesn't believe in federal law? The police commissioner of the largest police department in the world doesn't believe that federal law enforcement officers should enforce federal law? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that insane to me? Is this acceptable? Is this a conservative newspaper, the New York Post? Like, is that how you would report that? She blasts the feds for putting the officers in harm's way. How about blasting Jessica Tish for putting her own officers in harm's way because the response to that protest was completely inept and endangered every New Yorker, endangered the paid agitators and the useful idiots, endangered the ICE agents, endangered her own cops, endangered the residents, endangered tourists. It's disgrace. This is a disgrace of a title right here. This is a disgrace.
Yeah. See, I think, I think both sides, both ICE and NYPD are too terrified of putting up resistance against the poor policies coming from higher ups. And I think if I was borough chief and this was happening in my borough, I'd be furious. I would be screaming at 1PP, I mean, or even if I was the precinct commander, I'd be angry. You keep letting this happen in my precinct, and you're not doing your job and giving us enough personnel to stop this from becoming a problem. And he's the one who's going to have to deal with it at the community council meetings, at the community board meetings. So it's awful, But I'm gonna say that to your point that I think both sides want this, and I'm saying that because look, we still don't know who's funding the protesters. I mean, we do know it from all the news reports, but we're not being told of it from law enforcement. We're not being told of it by the FBI and the DOJ or the NYPD. And though I've heard that the NYPD has tried to go after some of these groups, that they just couldn't, within the boundaries of the law, and probably Hanshaw as well, the Hanshaw agreement. But even if you can't go after them legally, why I would have had a press conference and I would have told you, I would have told everybody, including the media, who's funding these people, so that it'll bring media attention and maybe we can get something coming out of Congress or the federal government. And has that happened? No, there hasn't. And the reason that it hasn't is because, again, the people who are funding this are all connected to the people in charge, Like, look, I'm looking at a list of funders of these protesters. One of them is the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And the thing about Mamdani is actually connected to the Rockefellers, by the way, So the other groups, there's the Tides Foundation, there's Open Society Foundation. Open Society is George Soros apparatus. And George Soros, like I mentioned here before, his number two guy is Scott Bessent. It used to be Scott Bessent, and Scott Bessent is now Treasury Secretary connected to Trump. And look, it's also mentioned that money from Qatar has flowed through universities and to protesters. And who's connected to Qatar? Okay, so again, the thing is, it's all connected. Okay, you're never going to hear who's funding this, because if you hear about it, you'll be able to connect the dots and ask questions like, hey, why aren't you doing something? You know who these people are, you know who these funders are, and so you're not going to hear about it. Okay, because again, these protesters are working with there's a dialectic that happens here. Again, it works with problems and solutions, and the public's reaction to those problems is when the government, the elites come in with their solution, which is always beneficial to their cause. And these protesters are creating a condition where it's going to be the the higher ups, the people in charge, the elites are going to come in with their solution, and their solution is probably going to entail more surveillance, more national guards on the street, more tech, more more of a condition that's that's not helpful to American society. So that's why you're not going to hear about any of this, and you're going to continue seeing this poor policies.
So when I say I see on both sides, I see the left with their agenda, and I see the right with their agenda. And I think ultimately it meets at the middle. I think there's some similarities and differences. And the similarities that I see is that ultimately the left and the right both want control. The left wants control with AI and robotics, and I think there's a component to the right too. But the right wants to have National Guard move in and take over all these blue cities. But ultimately, the major similarity that I see, and this is where they all meet in the middle, we talk about defunding the police. I think the left and the right are both defunding the police in different aspects to it, right? So the left is defunding the police by tailing away from the police department, say we need this civilian-based and community-based apparatus, especially in New York City. And the right is telling you we need to defund the police by having the police apparatus, the hierarchy, the National Guards. So to our point here, why do we need large police departments throughout the country if we're going to have a different apparatus, which is National Guard and all these community-based? And the bottom line is, it's just another form of policing. It's another police force. So no matter what we see from the left and the right trying to tail down from the police departments and defund them, ultimately, you still have a police form apparatus. No matter what, you need some form of police to patrol a specific area, whether it's National Guard, whether it's the actual police department, and even if it's this community-based type from Zohran Mamdani, that's another police force. So that's where I see the similarities, that ultimately both sides want control, and both sides want to accomplish that mission by defunding the police, whether it's with AI and robotics or whether it's with actual National Guard with this takeover. And that's what I see what's going on, particularly and specifically in New York City. And so I think that the leadership of the NYPD and the politicians have dragged our law enforcement agencies, especially with the focal point of the NYPD, dragged them into the middle of federal politics, really putting them in a very, very vulnerable position where the target is on their back, and we've made it much more dangerous. So I've been saying it for 3 years, and I hope I'm wrong. I do think a police officer will die by the hands of another without the use of a firearm in these protests. People are angry right now. Some people don't even know why they're angry. They're angry because they're allowing politics and the media to drag them around, and their heads are completely confused. A lot of these people are working, they're not paying attention, and they can only catch sound bites. It's the sound bites that really stick into their head of what's going on. So, Marlon, you make a great point. For some people, they're completely unaffected by it because of where they're located within the city. And some people are specifically affected by it. And not only are they affected by it physically of what they see, but they're also brainwashed by what they see. And that's what I see that the left and the right want. They want to brainwash people to believe that we have to defund the police. We need the National Guard takeover, or we need AI and robotics, so we need this community-based policing. And the bad guy is always the men and the women in blue by these politics and by the media in these positions, especially right now. So shame on the leadership of the NYPD. Shame especially to Jessica Tisch, who's not standing up and saying the NYPD is doing their job and doing the job to the best of their capabilities. And nowhere in my career or any career have we seen where the police department gets to pick and choose what laws that they support or not. If you're in a specific area, if that's your precinct, going back to what Marlon said, if that's your precinct and you're running a command, it doesn't matter who's doing enforcement, whether it's the DEA, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the ATF or ICE. If crime is committed and an apprehension plan has to be put in place, the police department has always been informed and also been there to supplement and assist or take control, but work with other agencies. So putting the police department at odds and blaming ICE for it, that's exactly what they want. They want complete chaos, because the chaos is what leads to actual political change. So it's almost as if it's terrorism from the outside, but it's also terrorism from the inside.
I just can't get over that the New York City Police Department police commissioner is blaming ICE and putting officers in harm's way. Daniel Carinza, he said, how much of this is a result of what we saw as officers' hesitation because of sanctuary city laws? I think when you look at the SRG, I don't think they were hesitant at all. I think they were outnumbered, outgunned. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the staff. And they were really given a game plan that was set up to fail. Again, none of this matters. The diaphragm law doesn't matter. Sanctuary city law doesn't matter. I'm talking about keeping order in New York City. There is a large mass scale protest that pops up in the streets of New York City. Does anybody in this chat, does anybody listening to this believe that the NYPD is not capable to cordon those people off and section it off and allow the free flow of traffic and allow those emergency ICE vehicles to get out and move freely without being obstructed? I mean, I don't think any of us believe that, right? Like I said, originally you would show up. It's a pop-up protest. What would you do? Hey, I need metal barriers here. Hey, I need a mobilization here. I need XYZ here. And what are you going to do? You're going to metal interlock. You're going to use the metal barriers like 300. You're going to use the officers to create a phalanx. You're going to push people onto the sidewalk and off to the street. And those who want to fight you are getting arrested, right? So you'd have arrest teams show up. You push them back. You interlock the barriers. Most people are going to do it. The reporters are all going to do it. Even the paid idiots are going to do it. You'll get one or two guys that are going to get arrested. Okay, no problem. Everybody else will fall into line. You interlock all the barriers. You do it the whole route. You set up the whole route. There's no way that those vehicles don't get out freely unless you intentionally wanted theater. Unless you intentionally wanted those video clips to happen, there is no way that should have been allowed to happen. All of those CCRBs that are going to stem, all of the things that are going to come out of this, all of the political rhetoric that's going to happen as a result of this, the demonization of the police, the demonization of ICE, all of it could have been avoided very easily, very simply, with competent leadership. And there is none. They were completely outgunned. They were given a game plan for failure. They had no resources available. That should have never, ever happened. I mean, I don't have a map behind me, but if I did, I would draw you up the plan. And it's simple. There's no one on earth that has worked in the New York City Police Department. I don't care if you were a supervisor or you weren't. Even if you were a supervisor like Juju, who never did a damn thing in his career and never actually had to make a decision. You know, you were some loser lieutenant who they stuck in like little things to do, because he's so intelligent. You know, they even if you were a loser like him, even that loser. I mean, well, maybe not him, but most people, you don't even have to be a supervisor. That did not have to happen. That did not have to go down the way it went down. It's infuriating to watch. And then listen to the rest of this Post article. It's insane. Hours later, Christopher Rea, who runs the FBI's New York office, called Tisch with Special Agent Ricky Patel, the head of Homeland Security Investigations in Newark, to apologize over the confrontation between cops and protesters. Why is the FBI, why is Homeland Security apologizing for people pop up and just start acting like animals in New York City? Why would Trump's FBI and Trump's Homeland be apologizing to our woke police commissioner? You know what I would have said to her? I would have called her up. I would have said, hey, how you doing, police commissioner? Yeah. Oh, you're upset? Yeah. Too fucking bad. We have to, we are a sane nation. We're a nation of laws, not a nation of your opinion, not a nation of where billionaires think that we could keep all our borders open and we could do everything for everyone while they live in their mansions and their high scale apartments. No, sorry. We have to keep people safe. Part of our counterterrorism plan, part of what should be your counterterrorism plan, part of what should be your public safety plan is that we actually continue to do our job. So be upset. Have a nice day, police commissioner. Click. In what world is the FBI and head of Homeland apologizing to this woman for? What? I don't understand. Tish, who announced earlier this month she'll remain the top cop, should she? Next year, under Mayor-elect and longtime ICE critic Zohran Mamdani gave both men an earful, telling them what happened was unacceptable. What was unacceptable, Jessica? What was unacceptable? Us securing our nation? Us doing what every sane nation on earth does? Go hop the border to Mexico, Jessica, and let me know what happens to you. Let me know how you're treated. Let me know what happens to you. I'll tell you what's going to happen to you. They're going to arrest you. They're going to throw you in jail. And then eventually they're going to deport you. Why? Because that's what a sane nation does. If you cared about public safety, you would say, please take away all of the public safety threats. We don't even need them to be prosecuted. We don't need them to be felons. Enforce federal immigration law, please. But that's not what she's saying. And yet, you have people on here in law enforcement circles claiming that she's the savior. It's disgraceful, dude. It's disgraceful. Resign. That's my statement to you, Jessica Tish. Resign.
Yeah, I think we're living through like a neo-feudalism where being a billionaire heiress means government officials have to apologize to you. And I don't know what weight the Tish family has, but apparently they do, because you ever try to make just as an experiment, go use one of these AI programs and tell it to produce a picture of Jessica Tish. Good luck with that, because it's not going to do it, which is funny enough because it'll, most people it'll do, but there's just some people that they won't touch, including Tish, and it strikes me as very curious too. Again, I apologize to some of you guys who you see your comments, you see nobody responding to your comments. It's because the AI on YouTube is filtering out your comments. Certain comments apparently are getting stuck in a filter. We can see them on StreamYards. You can see them on your screen, but other people, it just won't pop up in their chat. And I don't think any of that is a coincidence that they don't want us talking about certain topics. And, just to even produce the thumbnail for this episode was a pain, because the AI just wouldn't follow directions, which is I found very, very curious. But to be fair, I'm gonna say ICE. There's an article that came out from the Washington Post that said that DHS has apprehended 4,000 people, and of those 4,000 people, only 120 of them have criminal records. Now, this is kind of disregarding the fact that just merely crossing into America is illegal. But the point that they're probably trying to make is that of those 4,000 people, only 120 of them will probably had criminal records and were immediately of a public safety threat or issue. And so I'm going to give them that. But ICE still it's still their job to apprehend illegals. Okay. Now we can argue that it's not smart the way they're going about it, but it's still their job. So the fact that she's calling them and dressing them down about it is kind of ridiculous. Or the fact that they're apologizing to her is completely absurd, because, who is she? If, things have gotten so bad, so like out of whack in this country, that because she's a billionaire and because she's good friends with Ivanka, um, that probably, am I naive in thinking that plays a part in why they don't want to fall on the wrong side of her? But it's just absurd that like the way things are headed with all of this nonsense.
I've mentioned before, but I'll mention again. That's why I love that movie so much, Syriana, with George Clooney and Matt Damon. And what you learn in that movie is exactly what we're seeing right now. In that movie, you learn that politics doesn't really run the show. It's money that runs the show. It's the oil companies. In that movie, it was the oil companies that actually runs politics. And we're seeing the same thing right now. Jessica Tisch, who has zero business leading a police department because she's used the police department as her political pawn, doesn't understand police culture, has never faced danger herself, but puts police officers in harm's way for her own political agenda. People are pandering to her. The left panders to her, the right panders to her because she has money. Somehow money equates to intelligence and equating to being in charge and actually running a police department in the largest city in the entire world. Absolutely ridiculous because she's a billionaire heiress. And no one will say a bad word. No one will say a bad word because she has the money all behind it. It's absolutely ridiculous. But thank God for platforms like this where we're actually honest and telling you it's complete failure. Even with the weak leadership that we have right now, there is no one better in the business in any law enforcement agency in the world. And I'll say this right now, no one better than moving people than the NYPD. One thing you'll learn in the NYPD, and just the voluminous of just doing police work, is the art of moving people without even touching them. And when we have to control crowds, there's no one better than the NYPD, whether it's a planned event or an unplanned event. The problem is the political leaders. The problem is Jessica Tisch, the leadership that's not allowing the police department to do their job. And all the legislations that's been stripped away at the police department. Such as we told you before, the protest settlement. The protest settlement, if you have an opportunity, you have to take a look at that, really peels away at the police department from having the ability to do their job. So we're seeing all these mounting strips of legislation that have been added to the police department really affecting them right now with weak political leadership, putting them in the fire, but putting them in a position where they have one arm behind their back and they're completely handicapped and they can't do their job because the NYPD is the best in the business at controlling crowds. And they would control the crowds if they were allowed to. SRG, you can see, was completely prepared and ready. But the problem is they're held back and they're handicapped by the political leaders. They're held back by Jessica Tisch. And nowhere, shape, or form should any law enforcement agency be apologizing to another agency for the rowdiness because of the crowd. If you have legitimate business to be there, the federal government, why are you apologizing? Why are you apologizing? Because it's a complete failure on both sides? It's because you want it to be a failure? It's because you want it to be political theater? You want people to believe that you're at odds? This is just political theater that we're watching, and everyone's being used. The cops are being used. The residents are being used. Everyone's being used for their own show and for their own agenda. And it comes down to, it's amazing because she's a billionaire heiress, how much power that she has. So politics takes a backseat to money. Big money runs a show.
Yeah, it's disgraceful, dude. It's honestly totally disgraceful. So Jessica Tisch, Zohran Mamdani, they don't believe in federal immigration law, but they do believe in international law. So they don't want us to enforce our own federal law, but they want us to enforce international law. I mean, these people are moronic. The press is disgusting for going along with any of this. And honestly, where's the Trump administration? Like, what Rhea is? If that's true that you're apologizing to Tisch, you don't run the FBI. You don't. You exactly what Eric's saying is correct. If Homeland Security Investigations is apologizing, I'm apologizing for what? We didn't even conduct a raid. They didn't even conduct a raid. They were supposed to conduct a raid, supposedly. Supposedly. They didn't even think about what you're being told here. You're being told that Jessica Tisch is so mad. What? That they showed up and went to work that day? That they were in New York City at their offices? What exactly is she mad at? They were supposed to conduct a raid, but it got leaked and protesters sent up. That's what happened. So I would have came out and been like, what are you talking about? We're having coffee. What's the matter? What are you mad about? You know, like, what are you talking about? Like, so what are they apologizing for? Oh, we're apologizing. We went to work today. Sorry, Jessica. I'm so sorry. Please don't tell your daddy to tell Trump. Please. I really need this job. Please. Like, what's the apology about? What is the apology? You didn't even do anything that day. You went to work, protesters and reporters showed up in front of your office building. What'd you do? What'd you do wrong? You know, it's like, it's ridiculous. And again, watch this. Like, how does this happen? How does this happen? Look at this. And honestly, I had another problem with this. Why are these people not arrested? Stop your effing car and slam this guy onto the ground, put him in handcuffs, and put him in the back of your car and process the arrest. Like, why is this not happening? Why is this not happening?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a captain chasing this dude. Like, come on. It's disgraceful, dude. This should have never happened. None of this should have happened. None of this. All being put in harm's way. All of them. It's disgraceful, dude. I'm sorry. It's just, it's really, honestly, it's hard to watch. And it's not if someone's going to get killed. It's when someone's going to get killed. When a member of the public's going to get killed, when a cop's going to get killed, or when an ICE agent's going to get killed. And that's exactly what they want. They're probably disappointed of the outcome of this. That's what I believe, honestly. That's what I believe.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, also that funding that I mentioned 2 go-arounds ago, $9 million of it comes from city council, right? So between 2010 and 2023, some of those same groups involved in the protest there received $9 million from the city council's discretionary funds, you know, and government contracts. So it's not just the federal government; it's multiple layers of government and that, you know, that are also involved in funding this nonsense and keeping this nonsense going when it you know, it should have ended like years ago. But I think one of the reasons why they allow it, by the way, is because it gives the young people something to to distract them with, to divert their energy to, instead of paying attention to what they should, which is the fact that, I mean, they're angry and frustrated that they can't do certain things like afford a house, and the politicians aren't doing anything to solve those issues. So this is a way to divert that energy away from them, you know. But I think I watched that video and I keep thinking of like a Benny Hill music, you know, that chase music they always use. This thing is just it's so ridiculous that it's going on, you know. It's like, when are we gonna finally get past this point where you know, instead of seeing these protests every week now? I mean, what I don't understand also is just the frustration of having to even answer questions about it. If I was PC, I would have, you know, I would have tried to find a solution to this, just so I don't have to deal with the constant, you know, scrutiny about it, or just even having to send a handful of SRG guys there. But no, none of that, you know, none of that happens.
You know, I want to thank our friends and listeners. The chat is great. The comments are really flying in. I know we didn't get to a lot of comments. It's just there's so much coming in here. But I thank, even Mikey G says, he said it right before you said it, Marlon. You should play the Benny Hill music to that. Absolutely. And Hood Mayor says it right here. It's crazy. They didn't catch him. Look at the protesters' stride. It looks lame. I was thinking the same thing. When I watched that video, it appears to me that when they eventually got out of the car, they really didn't want to catch him. They kind of put on a show. It was kind of like you saw the guy run, the cop that came out the pass side came out. He didn't really run after him. You know, they more put on a show. It kind of makes you think. You know, you have to ask yourself, if you look at the protests throughout the city, and protests happen every day in New York City, whether they're planned, unplanned, some are small, 2 and 3 people. I worked on the Lower East Side. Every day there was 2 or 3 people protesting something or singing songs or something where they're protesting. Someone gets on a box. So, but this has become where the crowd's getting larger and larger. You have to ask yourself, what are the cops being told? What is the actual mission? Because we see a different response at different protests. The police department doesn't police as a one-size-fits-all when it comes to these protests. And that's just more indication, more proof how politics has played a role in the police department, because we see a different response. If there's a protest in Staten Island, which was a conservative place until they voted for Andrew Cuomo this last election, you would see a complete different response from the police department. When you see the police department do a response for the West End Day Parade, we see a different response. When we see the police department at protests like this or at the synagogue, we see a different response. We're not seeing the same response. We're not seeing the same tactics. So the question is, what are the cops being told? How are they told to operate? What are the operational procedures? Because clearly at every planned and unplanned event, the cops are moving at a different speed. They're using different tactics and a different approach. Some, they're extremely hands-on. They make arrests. And some like this, their hands are off and they're not making the arrest. And they put in vulnerable positions. But it comes down to leadership, because the rank and file will do the job as they're told. That's one thing we know. And the question is, what are they told to do?
They're not told to do anything here. I mean, look what's happening, dude. This is complete, utter chaos. This should have never happened. And honestly, it's completely inept. And everything you're seeing here is a fault of failed leadership in the NYPD. I mean, what? All right, you had 200 protesters, you had 600 protesters, you had 1,000 protesters. So what are you saying? What's your limit, what you can contain? What's the limit with the NYPD? Look at this. Look what they did. They piled up all this garbage so that they can't drive through. How do they know the direction that they're going? How wasn't the routes cleared before they moved? How didn't that happen? Why didn't that happen? What's the limit? 200 protesters the NYPD can no longer handle? Why not? Why not? What? You don't have the equipment? You don't have the funding? You don't have the manpower? What is it? What is it? Like, which one is it? Like, it's honestly, dude, it's disgraceful. And then everyone's in shock that Jessica Tisch met with Bill de Blasio. Let me unshock everybody here. Jessica Tisch was appointed and moved through the ranks of the New York City Police Department by Bill de Blasio. She's a de Blasio acolyte. She's a de Blasio girl. I don't know what the shock is about this. I don't know. Like, do we not remember? Who made her the deputy commissioner of ITB? Bill de Blasio. Who runs the New York City Police Department? Academics who were analysts and then became deputy commissioners. You went from being an analyst, which means you sat behind the desk and listened to all of this academia garbage in one police plaza, and then you became a deputy commissioner. Like, what's your real knowledge in policing? You have none. What's your real knowledge in how the working class moves? You have none. What's the real knowledge you have about crime and how crime happens and how to control crime and how crowds and how to move crowds and how to perform public safety, what the overall mission of the New York City Police Department is? You don't know. You have no idea. Maybe you watch Law and Order Blue. Maybe you spoke with a couple of chiefs. You had dinner with them. Maybe you took a picture with Bill Bratton once. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, this is not shocking to me that she met with Bill de Blasio at all. At all. Bill de Blasio is going to have a hand in Zohran Mamdani's administration because, like we told you, he's not a revolutionary character. He's a Democrat, just like Eric Adams, just like Andrew Cuomo. You've seen the Brooklyn Borough president, Antonio Reynoso. He's coming out and saying that he's heartened that New Yorkers are standing up for their fellow man. So he's heartened that NYPD officers and ICE agents are being attacked. And I'm like, everyone's shocked about that. I can't believe the Brooklyn Borough president. What about the other idiot right before him that was the Brooklyn Borough president? His name was Eric Adams, where he said that we should give illegals free health care. Illegals, you don't have free health care, but he wanted to give illegals free health care. He wanted to give them the right to vote. And he also wanted to ensure that they would never be in a position, the NYPD would never be in a position to partner with ICE. And everyone's losing their mind now when people say that. They're losing their mind now that Zohar Mamdani's a team said, his public safety team said that we should never deport unless felony convictions. You know who also said that? John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, Ed Caban, Eric Adams, Jessica Tisch. But you're in shock that Zohar Mamdani's saying it. Why? It's a Democratic platform since 2018. It's the same exact identical agenda. Oh, you know who else had that agenda? The guy you voted for, Andrew Cuomo. He had that agenda too. Yeah, you voted for that. So what are you shocked over?
You know, I just I just thought of something, and I just did a quick search on it, and I didn't realize this lady was on so much prominent boards. You know, so apparently Tish is a member of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. She's on that board, and she also has membership in the Council on Foreign Relations. So that kind of puts things into I kind of understanding where that apology may be coming from now, and how much power this lady does have. I mean, it's very, very, very curious, you know. But yeah, I don't know where this is all headed to, but I think people really need to be raised up about all of it, you know, because like we talk a lot about the surveillance aspects of it, and you know, where this is all headed to, and none of it makes me comfortable, you know, because ultimately, you know, it gets us to an America that looks differently from the one that, you know, we grew up in. And it's if this keeps happening in Manhattan, first of all, it's just gonna make Manhattan a completely unlivable place, or on a place nobody wants to go to. You know, at this point I don't even want to travel to Manhattan, because not only is it a pain to find parking, and you know, a lot of the places that you visited previously are no longer there because, you know, businesses have closed. But now you have to worry about getting caught up in the middle of some of this nonsense, you know. So I don't think this is a good look for the long-term health of New York City. And I just don't think that these people have the interests of New Yorkers in mind with all of this poor policies.
New York City is not even a city anymore. It's like a social experiment just gone wrong. And there's no doubt about it, Jessica Tisch has substantial power. She comes from the 43rd richest family in the entire country. Just keep that in mind, 43rd. So this family has a lot of power. And she's not from a different city. They're from New York City, the economic center of the entire world. So they have extreme amount of power. And I would assume that that's actually done by the family, getting her on all these boards, because that gives them even more power and more leverage. Because not only do they have the money behind it, but they also have a voice in on it. So they have the money and they have a voice. It's, you know, it's almost like, you know, you watch a movie Scarface. If you remember the movie On the Beach, it was Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino, with Stephen Bauer, and he says, "Slow down, right? You got to get the money, then you get the power, right?" So money does equate to power, and we see it here. And in order to have power, you need that money, but they also have a voice, and they have a strong voice. But this is just an epic failure. I mean, look at this. Look at New York City. And I feel sorry for these cops, because the cops know damn well in their inner core how the job should be run properly, but they're completely handicapped from doing it. And all this garbage that's been put there to impede their path, impede them from doing their job. There's no doubt about it that there's inside leaks. Exactly what John said earlier. How do they know where to strategically place these items? How do they know the travels of the cops? And where was this extraordinary technology that Kaz Daughtry often talks about? Did we not forget he's the deputy mayor of public safety, who was the the czar of drones. Where are these drones to operate, to monitor? Where are these drones to provide intelligence to the police officers? These police officers are set up for failure. They're put out there with no information. They're left in the dark. The intelligence unit is not providing any information, and it's all done on purpose. It is a show, and this is a complete shit show what's going on here, that the cops have to deal with this. There should be arrest after arrest after arrest. There should be mass arrest so that people don't want to come back and ever do this again. I don't care if it's the FBI, ICE. If you commit crime in New York City, a uniformed personnel, whether it's ICE or the NYPD, will take action. So just as we said earlier, we support any law. If a federal law has been violated or a local law has been violated, the NYPD is supposed to take action. This idea of sanctuary city is bullshit. And the cops don't care about politics. They're not getting involved in that. They're doing their job by the leadership of the NYPD. So that's who is to blame. It's the leadership of the NYPD. Let's be honest here to our police enthusiasts here. Cops know retired active, but anyone who's a police enthusiast, there's no cop that goes out and does their job thinking, what are the politics right now? Oh, this is a sanctuary city. No, their job is led in the vision by the NYPD leadership. So the question is, what is the NYPD leadership telling them? And as John said, they're telling them to do nothing. That's what they tell them to do, to have kick gloves. And we can see even the way that cop, when he ran out of the car, he didn't really run after that perp because they're told to do nothing. So that I agree.
Look, here it is again. I mean, there's more reporters than there are people. What are you doing here? Like, you're going to run this dude over. Get out, put him in handcuffs. And what is this? Like, what's happening here? You know, I don't understand. Like, would you drive with someone standing in front of your car? Like, I have arrest authority. I'm not doing that. Sorry, someone's getting arrested right now. You're getting arrested. Here, look at this too. Like, who made this call? Who made this call that this is how we're going to move? You know, and a lot of people are knocking the sergeant, by the way. You know how long they were dealing with this stuff for? I think they did a great job. I honestly do. I think they did a great job. I think that, you know, at some point, you're in just complete survival mode. And that's where they are right now. They were set up for failure, these cops, and they're shoving people. And unfortunately, I hate to tell you guys, you're all getting charges. You're all getting charges. Potentially one or two of you, the sergeant, they're going to be looking to fire you. They're going to be looking to take your job, dude. And who's standing up for you? Zohran Mamdani? Jessica Tisch? Who? Eric Adams? John Shell? Who's coming to bat for you, bro? Nobody. Like, you know, and it's unfortunate because you're trying to do the job. You're trying to ensure public safety here. But does this look like public safety to anybody? Does this look like a competent response by the New York City Police Department? Does it look like there is one police plaza, that there are people in one police plaza who know what the hell they're doing? I know Mike LePetri knows what he's doing. I know Mike LePetri could have 100%, this could have went down totally different, but it didn't. And why not? Why not? That's the question that nobody's asking. Why not? Why is this the new NYPD? Why do they not know what they're doing? Why is there no leadership? Why are there no resources? Someone said here, John, they did give barriers, but when they tried to put the barriers down, people fought with them. So why wasn't there a mass arrest process set up? Why were there only 12 people arrested? If that was the case, that when we were trying to put barriers down, there were people intentionally stopping that, then we get out the orange net and we wrap the orange net around the whole entire crowd and we take them out one by one and arrest everybody in there. And then let the courts and the DAs deal with it. Because we're going to restore order in New York City. People aren't going to lose their life. We're not going to destroy New York City. And we're not going to make it look like this. Do you know how much the price per square foot where we're in right now to live, to have retail space? Do you know how much that is? And this is what you have to deal with? Why? Because your police department that's given billions and billions of dollars doesn't know what they're doing anymore? I don't believe that. I personally think if I would have gave this sergeant, said, hey, what do you think we should do before we make these cars move? I don't think he's going to say, yeah, we'll walk them out of here. I don't think that that's happening. I don't think if you ask any one of those SRG cops, what should we do here when they roll up on that scene? oh, let's just walk the cars through Manhattan. I don't think any of them are telling you that. But somebody in One Police Plaza told them that. Somebody in the borough, in Manhattan South Borough, told them that.
Yeah. If you had a business over there at, you're constantly dealing with stuff like this. Are you and you see other places like Miami, which is growing a lot and attracting a lot of business, and you have the opportunity to move out of New York City, would you take it? Of course you would. You're paying, not only are you paying high taxes in this city and state, but you're now not getting the government services that's equivalent to those high taxes, and it's almost like you're being left to fend for yourself. So I just don't see how Manhattan is going to continue being a place for business owners to be able to run a successful business if this is going to keep on happening. But when I see that video, John, I have to wonder how many times did the bosses tell the cops to stay in the car as they were going down there. I don't think cops naturally would just, even though a lot of these guys are probably burnt out and they don't want to deal with it. I think at a certain point, when these protesters keep circling the vehicles and they keep jumping in front of it, at a certain point, you say enough is enough, And I don't think the cops are naturally gonna just sit in a car. I think I have a feeling that the bosses probably told them something, And the reason why I'm thinking about that is because I recall, like, during BLM, I told the story before when BLM was when those riots were going on and when they were breaking into stores in Manhattan. We were told to throw on a raid jacket, grab your hat and bat, and jump in the unmarked, and we zoom to Manhattan. We get around Union Square, and we're told to stay in the vehicle, right? So we had to drive to around 23rd there on the east side. What's that neighborhood? Gramercy Park. So we went up by Gramercy Park, and we're just hanging out there, and we're listening. I'm hearing over the radio, and I'm ready to just like screw this, but the order was explicitly came down to stay in the vehicle, hang back. So I'm thinking these guys were told to, they're told to a certain degree to let this go on, let them do their thing, because again, it's politically convenient to let this go on, and to just do barely enough to say that we did our job.
I mean, you're looking at this front and center. You're looking at a stage right now where politics has affected policing, because exactly what you said, Marlon, it defies logic. Whether you're trained or not trained, if you were never trained to be a police officer, but you were in a car and there are people surrounding that car and force you to drive that car where you might run them over, human nature would be to, if you have the ability to control and take those people over, and if you're in the police department, you would get out of that car and you would grab those adversaries and stop them. So this completely defies logic. So there's no doubt in my mind. That's why I said earlier, what is the message? What are they telling the cops? There's no doubt that they're telling these cops to operate with kid gloves. And that's why I said, if you look at different protests throughout the city, you see a different response, because it's the leadership of the NYPD. It's the information that they're providing. It's the vision and the mission that they're providing to the cops of how they should operate. And then you put the cops in a position now where they have to use force. And while they're using force, CCRB, their tongues are hanging out of their mouths, hoping that a proposed bill gets passed that they can have real-time access to body cameras and pick out who should get a complaint and who's getting substantial charges, while they get no support from the NYPD leadership, no support from the administration, and there will be several cops getting substantiated charges from the CCRB at this point, and then soon Jessica Tisch or the CCRB, if they have final discipline ability on CCRB, will look to terminate some of these police officers for being put in a situation where they're extremely vulnerable, that they have to use force. And I don't see anyone here operating out of control. Actually, they did a fantastic job being put in a position where they're already behind the 8 ball. So they're taking action. So the CCRB is going to be seething at the teeth, just waiting to burn these cops. I feel sorry for them. This agenda has put the cops in the worst position. You know, some people I have spoke to, and they said, well, why did some radical fire upon the National Guardsmen if it's political? Why aren't they going after these high prolific figures? And I've said this for a long time. National Guard or the NYPD, they are tangible. They're boots on the ground. People can actually get to them. That's why. They're the ones that are most vulnerable. People have access to them. They are tangible. They are political pawns in this. So the NYPD, I feel sorry for the rank and file. Where is the unions at this point to support them and say, look, what's going on with this manpower right now? You're putting our cops in vulnerable positions to now they're open to substantiate complaints to the CCRB. And then ultimately, the worst part about that is the civil liability that they'll have to face. They put these cops in a position where they lose. Financially, they lose. They're put in a position where the physical stress, the emotional stress they have to take upon, the economic stress of this, the stress that of catch-22. I speak to cops often, and they tell me they're working around the clock. They're on their way out the door, and they get notified that they have to work within a couple of hours. They have no time off. It's catch-22, and they're put in this position where they're exhausted and no support. And ultimately, I hear it constantly, and we know it. Morale is terrible. I feel sorry for these police officers. Morale is absolutely terrible. I spoke to a cop yesterday and told me there's no cops right now that have a vision of 20 years. Cops with a year on the job that are on probation, they're just taking this job because it's the step to the next best thing. No one is thinking about a 20-year career now. They are all on their way out the door or finding a way out the door. Look at these cops. Look at the position they put in there. They're powerless at this point. Imagine being in a position. You're an NYPD or New York City police officer. You have a firearm. You're trained to go out there and protect the public, and your own leadership is handicapping you. It's the internal pressures of the NYPD that take upon the morale of the NYPD.
Yeah, I'm just watching that video again on YouTube. If that lady had been run over by that truck, you know, it would have been even worse for them. So here's an example of where you know the bosses are telling them to hang back, and the situation is going to go even further sideways by hanging back and not doing anything.
Well, here's the other problem, right? It's like all these cops, like, they're doing the right thing. I mean, listen, you're protecting the vehicle, you're protecting yourself, you're trying to push these people out of the way. What were we always trained in the New York City Police Department? When you put your hands on somebody, you arrest them. When you spray somebody with mace, you arrest them. When you get the medical attention too. When you hit somebody with your baton, same thing. Right? What are these cops doing? They're putting their hands on people and they're not following through. What's going to be the justification? What's going to be the justification down at CCRB? Well, I mean, Group 54 might clear you. That's the Internal Affairs Force Group. They investigate force. They might clear you, but CCRB isn't going to. They're going to substantiate every push on a person and there wasn't follow through on it. That's a substantiated. It's an unnecessary use of force. Why did you use force against the individual? We were always trained that forever. When did that go away in the New York City Police Department? Just recently under Eric Adams. I mean, what happened to the kid in the middle of the riot when he pushed the girl, spit in his face, and he didn't get a medical attention? Oh, that's right. He got suspended and he almost lost his job. Actually, I think he did lose his job. Right? And so that's all you're seeing here. You're seeing people get sprayed with mace. You're seeing people get pushed. Somebody said, oh, you can't arrest your way out of the situation. You don't have a choice. You either arrest your way out of the situation or you're going to have a big problem. You're getting fired or someone's going to die and they're going to blame you. It's not those people. You already see they're being lauded by the politicians. Oh, Jessica Tisch is so mad now. She's so angry what ICE did. What exactly did ICE do? They went to work. What exactly did they do? They did nothing wrong. What? They existed? That's what she's mad at? She's so mad. She's so mad at the New York. Like it's disgraceful, dude. Honestly, I think, when we talk about payouts, you see what happened at the protest settlement agreement? New York City loves to pay paid agitators. They love to pay them out. How many lawsuits are gonna stem from that? How many lawsuits are gonna stem from those pushes, from the guy driving the car, from the people that were maced? And what is their payout gonna be? They're all gonna get paid out. You know who's going to be paying them? You are, New York City taxpayer. Oh, the cops? You guys? They're going to pay them too. You know how they're going to pay them? In your vacation days, because all the ones you're going to lose as a result of that. I personally think it's disgraceful what Jessica Tisch did. I think it's disgraceful that the chief of SRG and anybody else in SRG leadership, I don't care, sergeant all the way down, they let their guys even be exposed to that. I would be like, there's no way we're walking through the streets with this. It's not happening. It's not happening. We're going to restore order right here, right in front of this facility, right now, or we're not doing anything and nobody's moving. It's one or the other. We're either going to... Does anyone here believe that the New York City Police Department couldn't restore order in front of the ICE facility? I don't. And you see it clear as day on video. They couldn't. Why? There was no plan. There was no resources. It's that simple. And they were told not to arrest people. There's no way you come out of that situation with 12 arrests. Every video that we witnessed, I saw 12 arrests. And you know what I noticed throughout the video? It's the same effing people. It's the same people that should be arrested, and they're not. So you have the agitators and you're not going after them. What do you think is going to happen? What happens when you don't go after the main agitators? What does it do? It emboldens the crowd. Come on, people. 2004 RNC. Those guys are still alive that ran that show. The majority of those guys are still alive. Why were they able to control the Republican National Convention in New York City? Why were they able to keep order in New York City? Why? Competent leadership. They wanted this. There's no doubt in my mind. The leaks, they came from the Trump administration. They came from ICE. They came from the New York City Police Department. Yeah, and they probably came from the police commission office. She's so mad. So mad. I wonder how Rebecca Weiner feels. Are you so mad too, Rebecca? Fucking break.
Everybody's angry.
So mad.
They had to take their ball gags out to say that. Hold on.
Yeah, from Westchester. They're all so mad. I have an apartment in the city, because I just wanted to feel suburban, but I'd like to go out to my Westchester home on the weekends or my Hamptons on the weekend.
I love New York.
I carry the groceries for my husband, though.
Jessica Tisch was so angry. She threw a fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I gotta get consoled by De Blasio.
I wonder what their husbands their husbands made their boyfriends for breakfast this weekend.
Well, there's a certain somebody in the NYPD we could ask. If you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Do my hearty breakfast with all that work,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is it's even worse than that, because you watch a video, you're seeing guys put their hands on cops, and cops are just pushing them away. The dude, it's not a protest anymore when the guy's putting their hands on a cop. Okay, what are we doing here? The guy, I'm sorry, I just don't understand how we've gotten to this point. Years ago, you even put your hands on a cop, and you're going to, that's an automatic trip to the hospital. And here we see cops are you're in like a shoving match with a guy who already put your hands on you. It's mystifying, that we've gotten this far.
Well, it's no surprise to me that we've gotten this far, because there's this idiot. If you got a chance to see him on X, his name is John Shell, and he forgot that a few weeks ago.
I never heard of him.
But if you see a few weeks ago, he was the chief of the department, but he told Yeah, he was tweeting. He had a little drunken bender the other day. If anybody, poor guy, he must be a little bit under the weather, taking Advil and ibuprofen right now. But he was tweeting at me and Sal and John, and one thing he said, it really resonated to me, right? Because we all believe he was on a bender. So if he was, the truth comes out, right? Drinking gives you truth serum. And he said to John, you know what? He said, me, I couldn't believe he used this kind of slur, but he said, me and Sal were tards. So he's calling us retards. So apparently he has a problem with people that are mentally challenged. But he said to John, you should have taken the shot. You should have just taken the shot. So to me, that painted the picture for everything, Marlon. I said, wow, that's exactly what the NYPD leadership does. They utilize and weaponize for their own agenda the rank and file to pander to their political bosses, Eric Adams, their entire tenure. Take the shot. Just take the shot. They never support their people. So that's exactly we got to this point right now. They'll put the cops in any position. Go ahead. Go take the shot. They'll put them in a position, just completely outmanned in a protest and tell them not to make arrest. Let them get hurt. They don't care. They don't care. This guy was the chief of the department 3 weeks ago, and that's his message. You should have taken the shot. Not, well, hey, I support my cops, whether you want to make the decision or not. That's what he said. Take the shot. So that's where it's coming from. That is the leadership of the NYPD. The leadership of the NYPD has sold out for self-image, self-promotion, for their agendas, for their political bosses, and they utilize the political pawns. And who are those political pawns? The boots on the ground. They're the ones that pay for it. Because when this is all said and done, and I told my cops, and I know some of my cops are watching right now, remember what I told you. When there's an investigation, it's like you're going to a funeral. You go to it alone. And as John said earlier, when those CCRBs start coming, those substantiated charges, Eric Adams will be long gone. John Shell, he'll probably be in rehab somewhere. Who knows? But the bottom line is you'll be at these investigations and they'll all be gone. And you'll be there on your own. You're like, well, this happened under a different administration. And now you're getting penalized under a new administration who doesn't know you and doesn't care about you. And they didn't care about you before. You're just a political pawn. You are an NYPD casualty. That's what they think of you.
No, I'm glad to see, though, that Shell's doing well in retirement, though. I'm happy for him. Yeah.
He was bringing a lot of attention.
I think he was mad because I said something like on X about like one of these videos, and I said like, I was like, this is a result of there being no leadership in the Adams administration. And obviously he's tied to the Adams administration, because if not for the Adams administration, there's no way in hell he gets to become a one-star chief or even to the chief of department, right? So I think like he hangs his hat on that. Oh, well, this was, I was part of the Adams administration and he's my man. He let us play offense. He let us use the West Coast style offense. And it's like, dude, are you serious? Like, violent crimes up 30%. Hate crimes, all hate crimes are up over 100%. Hate crimes, particularly around anti-Semitism, are around up over 100%. Sexual assaults, rape, they're all up. Murder's down. Oh, congratulations. The hospital's getting better with trauma because they're seeing more and more gunshot wounds all the time. That's not a result of you being successful. That's a result of luck and successes in modern medical history. It has nothing to do with the work of John Shell. So as much as he likes to hang his hat on that, it's like, so he got really offended by that. While I assume he was at his bar stool and he was drinking, because hours later he just started going on a tirade. I should have took the shot. I'm a loser. And like, okay, Shell, if you think that my career is disgraceful and Eric's career was disgraceful and Sal's career was disgraceful, that's fine. Your opinion, you're entitled to it. I respect it. I got no problem with it. But I just want you to correlate that on how you believe Eric Adams was a great cop, because I'm curious what you think about Eric Adams' police career. If we were all trash, we contributed nothing to the New York City Police Department. I mean, how would the New York City Police Department look if we had 1,000 police officer Eric Adams? How would it look if we had 1,000 Sergeant Eric Adams? How would it look if we had 1,000 Lieutenant Eric Adams? How would it look with 1,000 Captain Eric Adams? I'll tell you, there'd be a police department that wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. there would be a police department that would be doing their nails. Like, what do you need help? Yeah, no, that's not us. Call the fire department, because he was useless. Useless. So if you're saying we're trash, think about what you're saying about your boss. Think about what you're saying about you. Think about what you're saying about you and your buddy Tariq Shepard, right? Because trash is like those careers are trash. So I honestly, I feel bad for the dude. I honestly do. I was like, the only reason I even responded is I just started getting so many text messages, and I was cracking up. I'm like, this guy's out of his mind. Like, there's something really wrong with you if on a Saturday night you just got to start blasting me, Eric and Sal. And he was mad about what I said, but he just went after you and Sal for no reason. Like, I was like, what do they have to do with it? You're mad at what I said. Be mad at me. Like, why
he called us your fellow tards.
Yeah. And he just keeps going back to his pension, dude. It's like, all right, good. Yeah, congratulations. Like, you got a big pension and no one thinks you deserve it. Like, so why don't you just be a little humble about it and not be trash? Go buy yourself a vet. Go buy yourself some nice toys. Enjoy your life. Do what you got to do, bro. You're getting all the big media hits, selling them all your garbage. Yeah, Eric Adams is the best. He's the best. West Coast style. Like, hell, live your life, dude. Like, you're a disgrace. I mean, look at the comments. And then the funnier part is he's so drunk that he's like tweeting from his fake names too, like responding to things we said. I'm like, dude, you not realize what you're doing? You're giving up all your fake names too. Like, ridiculous.
It's only about a time before he starts using racial slurs.
Yeah. 100%, dude. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Juju's doing well too, though.
Yeah, Juju's doing. I said, you're bragging about this pension, but you're not. You're bragging about this pension, but you're trying to get attention from three guys from a podcast. With all this money, why don't you take your wife out? Take your wife out. Let's go do something.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I was in Disney with my kids, and I'm like looking at this loser. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, seriously. Like,
that poor guy has more worry, I'm sure, on a drunken bender. He has to worry about which ankle hurts. Which one I have to hop on now?
Think of it. The guy's pulling in like thousands a month. What is it, like 20K a month? He's pulling in, and he's gonna jump on Twitter and make those comments. It's like for a guy who thinks that you guys don't matter, he sure does a lot of thinking about you, and he sure does a lot of like random tweets about you, I saw those comments. I was gonna go hard on him, and I'm still gonna make fun of him for doing that later. But I've kind of felt sorry for this guy, I'm like, dude, you're talking about your big pension. We all know you make a lot every month from it. And this is what you're doing. It's like, you have nothing better to do, guy. I mean, go enjoy your retirement. I mean, at some point you got to know when you've already lost. Just time to go home. Pack it up and go home. You already lost, guy. You're no longer dead. Nobody's gonna remember you. Nobody remembers him now. And it's been just maybe 3 weeks, a month. And the podcast's still here. John, Eric, Sal is still here. Plenty, like I said before, they these people look at like money and power is everything to them. But the thing is, like, nobody's gonna remember you there, So what all you had to do, if you really wanted to make to have a great legacy, is to have done the right things, and you didn't want to do that because going along with it and being like carrying Eric Adams water and doing what you can for the establishment got you all that money, but here you are with all that money and you're still not happy. So there's a lesson here about doing the right thing and how it's better for your long-term health and your conscience, that you can go to sleep every night and think, I did the best I could, rather than go to sleep and it's always weighing on your mind so much that when you're going to binge on the bar, you have to tweet at these guys.
You know, I hope he's okay, to be honest, because I used to volunteer. I used to volunteer with Papa and go to different seminars. Because so many veterans commit suicide, and I lost a couple of cops within the NYPD. So I'd volunteer and go to some of those seminars. He has classic signs of someone that is suicidal. I hope he's not, but he has classic signs. Just his actions on Twitter. He's always bragging about his pension, but yet he's not spending it. The only place he's spending it is at Joyce's Tavern. So I have some real concerns about his mental health, because he's not operating. Someone that who just retired after all those years should be someone that's happy. I mean, you have all this money right now. If that's really what's important to you, what are you doing with that money? So that money, honestly, is not important. We've seen it I've seen it in the history with the NYPD. I remember Chief Juanita Holmes, when she retired, a substantial pension. And then she got a great job with, I think it was American Express, making like $400,000 a year. And she came back within less than a year. So it's not about money with these people. For him, it's not even the job, it's the applause. That's what he misses, the ability to say, hey, get me a cup of coffee, and to have people pretend that they love you and care about you. And right now he's on his own. He's looking around. He's not the chief of department anymore. He just has his family. I don't know what his wife thinks of him, but he doesn't have people to pretend his jokes are funny. People smiling at him, getting him coffee, making him feel important. That's why he keeps talking about the money, because that's how he's trying to justify it in his own head to make himself feel better. Oh, it's about the money. Because believe me, if he had an opportunity to go back and to have an even better position, he would. It's not about the money. The money means nothing to him. That's why he keeps talking about it. And he even told me, he said, "Oh, your menial pension compared to mine. Who cares? I don't care. I'm very happy, brother. I'm glad where I'm at in my life. Are you? Not really."
It's honestly, it's disgraceful, dude. And like Juju's like, oh, you guys are jealous of his big pension. Like, let's get something clear. The guy makes about $300,000 a year, maybe a little more. I have friends that are much younger than him that make a lot more money a month than him. I don't think like he's like this guru of money, and I don't think he's loaded. Like, I don't aspire to like be in the same tax bracket as John Shell. I aspire to be way past him. So like, I don't understand like what like the obsession is with his pension, and it just shows his level of intelligence. And it's honestly, and like the things he says are horrible. Like, they really are. Like, he really thinks that he's better than someone because he has more money than people. And that shows you that that's the type of person that should have never been in leadership, right? Like, shows you his true character, shows you what he thought about everyone that made less money than him. Right? What did he say? What does he think about the cleaners in the New York City Police Department? What does he think about the PRAAs, the PAAs? What does he think about the police officers? What does he think about the sergeants? What does he think about the lieutenant? You're beneath him because he makes more money than you. It's like, what? Dude, like that's how you base your life on. That's what your life is. And then like the whole thing with the shot, like I never one time blamed John Shell or Kaz Daughtry for the vaccine mandate. I blamed it on the police commissioner. I blamed it on the mayor, and they rightfully so. But he's got a big problem with the fact that I didn't take the shot. He's got a big problem with it. He's got a big problem that I said no. I mean, all the stuff that came out, I mean, I was right. New York City violated the law. They violated our contracts. There was absolutely no reason I needed to take it. I had natural provable antibodies that were offered me a greater level of protection. And that if I would have took it, it would have potentially caused me harm. So I was right. And so like, I don't understand what that's about. You know what I mean? I don't understand why he harps on that. I never said one time it's John Shell's fault that I lost my career, that Marlon got fired. Never one time. I don't know what his obsession with that is either. But I think in my head, the reason why I think that it's a big deal, and I get it a lot from a lot of different people, is because I think they could have did more and they didn't, and they know it was wrong and they know it was messed up. And when you look at it overall, like you could say whatever you want about this administration. Oh, they gave us contracts. Yeah, crime was up. It was a fault of Bill de Blasio. Yeah, and I'll kind of agree with you with most of it. But the one thing that nobody could ever argue with me on, and the one thing that marks this administration, is we could talk about the retirements and we could say, well, there were large classes. These were expected. That's fine. There's never been this amount of people, not even close, not even within like a 50% margin. There had never been this many people that have retired early or have resigned than they have under this administration. And that is the barometer for morale. That is the barometer for how cops are treated. And that is the barometer for the lack of leadership that we've experienced the entire Eric Adams administration. Myself and Marlon and Eric and Sal should all be working in the New York City Police Department. And there are thousands of cops like us, and they know it. The reason they just come after us, why? Because we're all over Twitter, we're all over Instagram, everybody's listening to the podcast. You know, he was on the John Rondi podcast. Myself and Eric were invited on. We just haven't been able to get the dates because Eric's all over the world, hard to nail him down, you know. But like and I guarantee everyone he speaks to, they're mentioning the Finest Unfiltered, you know, and he's got it, and he's got to say what, because the thing is this: you might disagree with our opinions, but what are we saying that's a lie? What are we saying that's not true? What is it? No, we're giving our honest opinion, and everyone knows it, whether you agree with it or not.
It probably annoys him also that he can't be as authentic, you know. And again, authenticity is the currency of the internet, you know. And if you're not authentic, you won't have much of an audience soon, unless, of course, you're like a paid propaganda agent, and you get your views and you get the views bolstered by the establishment online, artificially bolstered, you know. But if you're not authentic, which he obviously isn't, and he won't be, he has no audience online. But I'm gonna also say that his comments about, like, in the past about cleaners and all of that tells you exactly like who he is and the circle of people he hangs out with. And what I believe is, like, it's all elitism. And you know, he's been hanging out around people like Adams and Banks and all the people they hang out with, you know. And there's Tish, and these people are all wealthy elitists, and people like Chell, you know, they aspire to be amongst these elites, you know, be wealthy, and they look down on us like peasants, you know, look down on the peasant blue class, you know. And when he says what he has, and the fact that he keeps going back to how big his pension is, it tells you exactly that mindset that he's at, you know. And we've said before how the NYPD is kind of now it's kind of like there's a hierarchy and class system in the NYPD, where the people at the top don't face the same consequences as below. And when you look at people like Chell, you're seeing that a lot of that mentality there. There's a difference between you on the ground level and them who make, you know, $30K a month in pension, in their pension, and you know, who we saw John Chell a couple of weeks ago taking tours of, like, the stadium in Dallas, you know. So you already know he knows big people. He knows Dr. Phil and these Hollywood types, you know. So it's elitism. But the one thing you could be elite all you want, but once you don't have authenticity, you certainly don't have the respect of you know, the regular people. And you know, he certainly doesn't have much of a legacy either. And again, I think even with all that money, that stuff really weighs on their mind.
Well, I think there's no doubt about it. When someone brags about money constantly, or something that's so materialistic, to me, it's compensation for something else. And that compensation, I believe, is for complete insecurity. And I think he's insecure. And I think the reason why he likes to come at myself and John and Sal is because he sees us, as we started the platform with the podcast, as, I think he sees us kind of like that mirror image of what he wanted to be. And you said it, Marlon, of being authentic, of being actually who you are, and say what you actually believe. Because we talked about it quite often, that when John Chell was the chief of department or on his way up under Eric Adams, he had to be someone he's not. we know that, that was the whole joke about, right? Woke in the streets and maggot in the sheets is because he had to pretend to be someone else to pander to Eric Adams. And now, unfortunately, he still has to carry that weight in his pack, because if he changes that position right now, that's just going to completely outcast him from every network at this point. So he has to toe that line and live that fake identity. So that to me, I think that eats away at him. Insecurity and knowing that he has to be someone else, and knowing that John is damn right for standing up against the vaccine, and so is Marlon, right? Taking that choice and having the moral principle to stand up against something that you believe in, especially which we all know they violated the law. And he knows that Sal was wrongfully terminated for political reasons, that he had to pretend that he wasn't on the conservative right also. And he knows that damn well the only thing he attacks is my police career, because he knows damn well that I was the same lieutenant that he probably would have been happy to have in a unit, because myself and the great guys that I had working for me and girls were out there getting illegal firearms. So he sees me as being that cop that was able to stand on his own 2 feet. So I think it all comes down to his own insecurities, and that's what's eating away at him.
And, I listened to the John Rondi podcast, and there was a couple of things that came up. So check that out. I think it was a good show. I think John Rondi hosts a good podcast. But there was one part where he starts to talk about how, like, his second career is even more lucrative, and how he's got a TV show coming out. And he's like, yeah, we filmed 18 episodes. So he's already filmed 18 episodes for his other career. Now, I'm going to be the first to say that if he got paid, or anyone else in the NYPD got paid, that is official misconduct. They should be arrested. And everyone that okayed that should also have to pay huge fines. There should be zero compensation, because the film that he's talking about is why they were running around New York City utilizing taxpayer funds and police resources while they were at work filming TV shows. I don't give a shit. Oh, Dr. Phil's a nice guy. I don't really give a shit. There's rules that we all have to abide by. Doesn't mean you could get paid by the city of New York and get paid to be a movie star utilizing all of the equipment of the city of New York and utilizing the resources of the city of New York because Dr. Phil's your friend. And that's what I was hearing. I don't know if that's true, but there should not have been a dollar exchanged between whoever filmed that, whoever is the producer and the company that filmed that whole series, and any of the cops that were involved in that, or anyone in New York City at all. If this was a documentary series, if this was being done for public safety or the betterment of New York City taxpayers, and that is the only reason that something like that should happen, it should have been completely, there's no exchange. You were getting paid by the city of New York. So I don't understand what that comment meant, but I'll tell you right now, you could call me a little rat and a little cheese eater. If I find out there was any money exchanged, I'm 100% filing complaints about it. Not only should you be arrested, you should be paying fines. It's official misconduct. You misused police resources. And anybody that okayed that, from the police commissioner all the way up, the mayor's office, they all should have to answer for that. That is a huge misuse of taxpayer funds. So I don't know if he misspoke. I don't know if I interpreted it incorrectly, but I interpreted it that he was saying that he filmed an 18-part series while he was at work at the chief of department, utilizing NYPD resources, utilizing NYPD vehicles, responding to 911 calls for his own personal benefit. That is clear as day official misconduct. Clear as day. There is no if, and, or but about that. You cannot perform a service and get paid for it outside of the money you earn from the New York City Police Department. That's what I was hearing him say. He's not that great of a communicator. Maybe he messed up, but that's something that needs to be cleared up ASAP. And by the way, I don't think this administration's out of the woods yet. I just don't.
Well, I think we're going to hear a lot more once they leave office, and especially what's going on now in these last 4 months. I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that we're going to hear about in months after. But I saw a good comment here, 2 comments, one from Leo Ferpini, I think it is. Yeah. The other one is from J Ramming 26. J Ramming says Marlon elites don't care about what peasants say. They'll sell your soul for an extra money. I'm gonna say that well, the thing is, they hate that a regular person now has a voice on the internet. They don't believe you should have a voice because you're not elite. Okay, and it angers them when a regular person comes on here and builds an audience themselves. You know, they hate that, and which is why you're seeing new laws being put into place, not just in Europe and London and England, but here, because Missouri just put some BS internet law over there where you have to basically ID yourself if you're going on a website that involves that 35% of it involves adult content. Adult content is undefined. Okay, so we're not just talking about like a porn site or something like that. It's anything. If people are using a profanity, or if there's certain conversations, you're gonna have to ID yourself. Okay, so what you're seeing coming down on the internet is kind of like a reaction to the fact that regular Joes have a voice, and people like Chell, people like Tish, people like Adams, and other elites like Aikman, they hate it. They hate it. Okay, but Leo Ferpini says that Shell is still thin-skinned bully who has lost his bully pulpit, and absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. And I think all these elites are thin-skinned precisely for the fact that they don't believe that you, the ordinary Joe, should have a voice. They don't believe that you should have the ability to actually put up a resistance in the public square against their nonsense.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt in my mind that John Shell is a little man inside, and the bottom line is, I got my dog on me. Hold on. The bottom line is that he, I believe, suffers from insecurity, and the reason why they constantly talk about their money is because that's the only thing that he cares about at this point, because he's got nothing else to go on. And that's why he's all over Twitter at this point. He wants power and he wants relevance. That's what keeps them to thrive, is that power and that relevance that he lost. And that's why he was a complete bully, because he didn't have that humility to appreciate it. I saw this thing a while back, and it's very true, right? When you're in a position that you have rank or power and you get those nice amenities, maybe you get a nice office or you get a nice cup and things like that, they're not giving it to you. They're giving it to that rank. The person that's holding that rank is the placeholder at that point. And then when you move on and they pass the torch and someone else gets those amenities, you now get it for that rank. So they're not giving it to you. So someone that's humble and understands, well, they're giving it to the rank. You were the chief of the department. That's why you had certain access to things. Now, I said a long time ago, John, if you remember, I was telling you that I heard numerous rumors from credible sources that Kaz Daughtry and John Shell were utilizing the NYPD to make different documentaries and films, not for the NYPD, for themselves. So there's no doubt in my mind that this will come to fruition, and we will find out if there was official misconduct here. I think it was, I think Popeye here said it earlier. When he was doing those films, was he limping in those videos? Yeah, I'd like to know that also. I like to know that also. What was his physical capability at that point? So this is absolutely ridiculous at that point. So, there's no doubt about it that these people are just really small-minded. And the fact that he's bragging about his money, I mean, everything's relevant, right? John Shell in this small arena, yeah, compared to me, he's got a lot of money at this point with his pension, but I don't care. But compared to Jessica Tish, that's chump change. You got no money compared to Jessica Tish. She spits on that kind of money. She throws that money in the garbage. So it's all relevant. And that's what he wants to be. He wants to be relevant.
So funny, dude. Right now he's calling Dr. Phil. He's like, could you edit out all the parts where I was running? You never thought about that one, huh, John? You blew it up, Popeye. I blame you, Popeye. We could have had it. So,
You never thought about that.
Yeah. It's sick. A friend just brought up a point too. He was saying, you see everybody weighing in on all the crazy videos that came out, right? All like police from across the country, unions from across the country, us, retired cops, active cops under fake names, public safety experts, everyone that weighs in on public safety is weighing in on all these videos. Who isn't? Who isn't? The people. We know who isn't. Yes, sir. The water boys. Who's that? The NYPD unions. Where are they to stand up for them? Where are they? They're like this with Jessica Tish right now. Oh, you're mad? Here you go. That is like great point. Like, where are the unions? And what do they got to? What does Pat Hendry have to say about this? What does Scott Monroe have to say about this? What does Vinny Valalong, Lou Turco, or Chris Monahan have to say about this? We don't know. They're like this. They're like, oh, what happened this weekend? I don't know. We got a cigar night, $1,000 a head. I'm gonna put on one of my fancy suits. Right? Like, is that not? Does that just not show you everything that you need to know? All they're doing at this point is like, well, we're getting you contracts. It's like, no, you're not getting shit, bro. They were always getting contracts. You're not getting shit.
Yeah. And you think those cops are they ready to put up a fight for those cops who are involved in that ICE raid? Are they ready to push back?
Nah. Shit. You gotta do what you gotta do, Mo.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do, Mo.
Yeah, those cops you might as well, if you're involved in it, you might as well start getting your own attorney, because the union they're not speaking up for you, and they're not gonna say anything here. So
I mean, shouldn't they be doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be doing what we're doing? Shouldn't they be on the ones online taking the heat? Shouldn't they be the ones going to city council hearings? Shouldn't they be the ones going to CCRB meetings? Shouldn't they be the ones in all these hearings related to the unvaccinated? Why is it us? We're not making any money for this shit. You don't pay me any dues. You don't give Eric any dues. We don't have a political fund to give your money to defund the police advocates. Right? Like, again, I'm going to tell you this again one more time. You're all a bunch of cowards, because the fact that you're still donating, you're still giving them money to their political fund is disgusting. They've done nothing for you. Nothing. I'm not saying pull your union dues. I'm saying say, I'm not paying to your political PAC anymore. You guys don't know what you're doing. I want that out. That has nothing to do with your health benefits. That has nothing to do with your representation. There shouldn't be a cent going into that political PAC from any cop. They gave you money to all anti-police advocates. Everything you say you're against, they funded. And you funded.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Unfortunately, they don't do a breakdown, and they should do a breakdown of where those dues go, and you should actually be able to elect. So I wonder if that's in the bylaws. You should be able to elect where the money gets allocated when you pay your dues. And I don't want to put my money towards those donations, those campaign donations. Absolutely, I agree. I don't see anyone. Unfortunately, when we talk about it, I don't see anyone that actually they're donating campaign funds that you would be like, you know what? Wow, that's a person that's really pro-police. That's someone I want my money to go to. I don't see anyone. Oh, by the way, John, I think it's Sleepy Joe or Sleepy G said you're going to give Marlon a CD for his muted mic. I can't even read these names. YouTube destroy these names, brother. Oh my god.
Yeah,
hopefully
it's terrible, bro.
Gets rectified. Yeah. Look, the bottom line is that the question: will they back the cops? Absolutely not. These cops are on their own. We know that every time the cops are put in these vulnerable positions because of political agenda, they're the ones left holding the bag. They're the ones that are tangible. CCRB doesn't go after Jessica Tish. That, hey, Jessica Tish, you had this failed plan. CCRB doesn't go after the chief of department. CCRB goes after those poor cops that are on the ground, that are ones that are misguided and utilized for a failed mission. That's who CCRB goes after. CCRB, you have all this power. You want to go after someone? Go after the NYPD leadership. That's the ones who abuse their power, that utilize the police department to bleed political points. But instead, you go after the lonely boots on the ground. Go after the guy that makes $300,000 a year. Go after the guy that's bragging about his pension online, who doesn't even know why he was injured. You have a deputy commissioner that's getting $750,000. Why don't you go after someone like that? Instead, you go after the cops, the ones with their boots on the ground that are just trying to keep people safe.
Yeah. So Pat Donahue brings up an excellent point here. He says, I'm still waiting for Scott Monroe, but I'm going to just change it, Pat, because I'm going to say it was Scott Monroe and every other single union president, as well as the entire board. They have yet to address the boxes of hidden air quality tests from Ground Zero. People died. Their members died as a result of it. There are people that are dying as a result of being lied to for those air quality tests that were hidden. And your union's not saying a word about it. It's disgraceful. I mean, it's the ultimate disgrace. No amount of money in the world could fix that amount of disgrace. No pension in the world is going to fix that amount of disgrace. It's honestly disgusting. But this is who they are, and that's what it is. This is their legacy. It's a legacy of cowardice, and that's why, all the booze in the world ain't going to help you sleep at night. It's not. The truth is a terrible, terrible thing, and the realization of what you guys are doing, it disgusts me. It honestly does. Does it cause me to lose sleep at night? No, but it bothers me. It bothers me. It bothers me because I thought you were men. I thought that you had conviction. I thought that the NYPD had leadership. And when you were passed the reins, you basically just put your head down like a good boy, and you did exactly what you were told, and you're still continuing to do exactly what you're told, and you're not speaking out for the profession at all, and you're just trying to save yourself and your next generation of kids. But the generation of your kids after, screwed because of you, because you're a bunch of cowards. I'm sorry. They gave away the bank with the whole COVID thing. They exposed exactly who they are, and it just keeps going. It just keeps going. You just see that they don't work for you. They work for the city of New York. Why wouldn't a union be addressing this right now? Especially, we're the only agency that fights to get people 9/11, to get them to that where they're actually acknowledged that they were sick from 9/11. We're the only agency that fights our members when they're injured to get disability pensions. We're the only agency that does that. The NYPD is disgraceful. It's honestly disgraceful. Guys get injured and they don't get 3/4. The legit injured where they can't work again. Then you got guys that they're fat and they get 3/4. Right? And now they're talking shit online. It's disgraceful, dude. Honestly disgraceful. And what's going to happen with this? Like this sergeant was this close to being Derek Chauvin. He was this close to being the next Derek Chauvin. This guy. Seriously, what's going to happen with this guy? I'll tell you right now, John Darsh and all of them are salivating. Watch this video.
Back up.
So the black cop, he was doing a lot of work that day. A lot of work. I mean, he was arresting he was the only one that was moving everywhere. I don't want to say he's the only one. It was him and his team. But you've seen him on video a lot that day. Now you got the sergeant, right? And again, he's in a lose-lose situation here. He's worried about getting run over. He's worried about someone else getting run over. He's trying to keep the crowd back. But he just pulled a Tony Baloney. Everybody remembers Tony Baloney. What did he do? Maced, kept walking. Can we do that in the New York City Police Department? Absolutely not. You can't do that. Was that insane? Did he have any other choices? No. I don't think that he did anything wrong there. But CCRB is going to think you did something wrong. And if one of those protesters got ran over, if one of those protesters had an asthma attack or a heart attack and died, this guy's Derek Chauvin. This clip would have been playing over and over again on Fox, on CNN, on everything else. And even the Republicans in New York would all be throwing you under the bus. We have to do better. Jessica Tisch would be crying. Bill de Blasio would be crying. Zohran Mamdani would be crying. Eric Adams. We have to do better as a police department. We're going to get you new training where you're going to go to Harlem and our police expert, Al Sharpton's going to teach you what to do. Right? That's the state in New York City. That's the state in New York City right now. Like I feel bad for all these cops. I really do. I feel bad for the sergeant too, but I can tell you right now, he's not getting charges. That's without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Does anybody know how many blocks they escorted ICE from that garage? So it looks like how much?
I mean, I don't know exactly how many blocks, but they're deep, bro. They started up on the top of Canal and they're walking all the way down Canal. You could tell right now just by looking at it.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's like they walked them all the way to the West Side Highway.
It's a shit show.
Absolutely.
Where is their aviation? Where's the drones? The cops should not be put in this position. That's zero tactics, zero plan. Honestly, the cops are lucky they didn't get hurt, severely hurt. Just getting maced. It's just terrible. Terrible. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's horrible. It's horrible to see the cops have to be put in these vulnerable positions. And there's no doubt about it. There will be plenty of those cops that will get substantiated charged with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Civilian Complaint Review Board, as we know, as they testify to City Council, only sees it as one matter of fact. They only see it through the eyes of their complainant, their civilian complainant, and their emotional apparatus and how they feel. They don't care about the totality of circumstances. They don't care that the police officer will put in that vulnerable position. That's why I say to the CCRB, why don't you go after Jessica Tisch? Why don't you go after the leadership of the NYPD? But no, you go after those cops that are just trying to maintain and restore order. The cops that are actually doing the job so that the CCRB, who works in Manhattan, if they're back to work, unless you're still working from home, actually needs the police department because you travel through those streets.
Yeah, those aren't tags, Lily. Those are what's the word for them? Those plastic handcuffs that they have.
Flex cuffs.
Yeah, flex cuffs. Yeah. Those are cuffs, Lily, for protesters.
They're for mass arrest process because you can't have all metal cuffs, so they keep the plastic cuffs around them, and then they could cut them off once. But they're supposed to be a mass processing center, but you don't need one when you're only arresting 12 people. That's for sure. You don't need a mass arrest processing when you're arresting that.
Which goes back to our point that they were told not to make arrests because there's no mass arrest processing and there's not enough personnel there. So
and again, dude, I mean, that's it's way too far, dude. They traveled way too far, completely unnecessarily. You could have contained this in a 2-block radius, and they would have been able to drive free.
Yep.
I mean, it's that simple. Maybe even a 1-block radius if you did it correctly. I would have just did a 2-block radius to confuse them, and then I would have sectioned them off the same. I mean, like, you can't tell me that we could section off things for New Year's, Thanksgiving, all these other parades, but we can't do it here. There's more reporters than the protesters, and then 12 arrests, and for what? Disorderly conduct, DAT, it's all getting dismissed. Nobody's charged appropriately. Nobody's going to look into the leak. No one's going to look into that. Why? Because it looks like this is all being manufactured to put up on the stage. They're looking for failure. They're looking for the cops to kill somebody, or they're looking for a cop or an ICE agent to get killed. That's what I see. And I don't just blame the lefties. I blame the Trump administration too. I think it's disgraceful on everybody's part, and the FBI. I'm sorry, Jessica.
And as far as what's tangible, I don't just blame Jessica Tisch. I blame the actual incident commander, the highest ranking member that actually had his boots on the ground. I blame him also. Because at what point do you say, what are we doing here? Why are my cops in this position? We're not going to be following them anymore. We need to slow down and we need to formulate a plan. But yet having my cops chase their own tail, putting them in a vulnerable position, and now they have to use force because it's already escalated, and now they're going to be the subject of numerous CCRB investigations and hold the ban for civil liability? No. But nobody does it. Nobody, because it's career suicide. Yeah, it's career suicide. But how about protecting your men and women? How about protecting the people below you? That's what real leaders do. Real leaders take ownership at every level. And nobody takes ownership because they just keep pandering to the top because everyone's worried about their own careers. But you're not worried about these cops that are left. In 18 months from now, when these substantiated cases play out, 18 months, that's a long time from now, Eric Adams will be a distant memory, and so will John. What's his name? John Shell. Yeah, that's his name. They'll be a distant memory. These poor cops will be facing the ass of a substantiated complaint from the CCRB, and it'll be 18 months from now. This will be old news. Listen, the National Guard incident, which is completely sad, that's old news already. The news cycle is very unforgiving. It goes quick, and people forget real quick. And in 18 months, these cops are sitting there like, damn, what went wrong? The only thing went wrong is you were working that day and you were present for duty, and they sent you into a pack of wolves and they put you in a vulnerable position, and you were just a sucker for that day. That's it. That's the only thing that went wrong.
Yeah, here's where it started, dude. They got the whole street. Why aren't they pushed onto sidewalks and barriers? They took over the street and they have all the cops standing around like idiots. And they're like, yeah, we're going to walk through Manhattan like a bunch of idiots. I'm like, sorry, zero leadership. Who was in charge of this? Chief of Manhattan South? Step down. Police commissioner? Step down. That's it. I mean, if you had a competent mayor, if you actually had a mayor, I mean, this never happens. This never happened. No way this happens. It's insane. And then look at all the resources they had, dude. These are just the feds. Like, where was and so like, here's the thing with sanctuary city law, right? You're not assisting the feds anymore. This isn't for the NYPD to come here and restore order and allow the free flow of traffic. And God forbid someone has a heart attack and we want to get an ambulance on that street, which obviously you can't right now. And you want people to walk freely and you want people to be able to go shop in those businesses. If you want to restore order in New York City, that is what New York City taxpayers pay you for. You're not violating sanctuary city law by doing it. So it's not an issue. This is not an issue. This has nothing to do with sanctuary city law at all, other than if you want to use it for an excuse on why you suck at doing your job, which is what Eric Adams and Jessica Tisch did. They suck at it. They're horrible, right? Like there's no violation that says I can't keep the streets free and clear. There's nothing to do. And who are we as a New York City Police Department to say that the feds shouldn't enforce federal immigration law? It's disgraceful. It's actually a slap in the face to every cop on New York City streets.
That's what I'm saying. I never heard this before. I mean, plenty of times working, and I'm sure, John, you probably encountered the same thing, Marlon, right? Doing intel and anti-crime as a crime sergeant numerous times, special operations lieutenant. Did I hear from the DEA or ATF and they would say, oh, we're doing a search warrant in a particular location, or we're carrying something out. I just want to let you know that we're here. Sometimes they would come to the desk or they would call and just let us know, for safety purposes. But no point, did they ever apologize to us when they got into incidents? And some of them have gotten to shootouts. Never did they ever call them, hey, sorry that we got to do a shootout with this perp over here. No, they did their job. That was it. This is insane. But now we hear, oh, Jessica, I'm so sorry, Jessica, This is crazy. It's got a lot of pull. I tell you, money goes a long way.
Well, it's not just money. She's on some very prominent positions in America, positions where you make a phone call and you're not getting that job. You're not getting that position in government. But that last picture John showed of ICE standing as the protesters are just building. It's crazy that like, they allow that to, they're just waiting around and more protesters are gathering, I'm sure the precinct knew about it. I'm sure they made some phone calls about it. And how long did it take to get a response there? Even ICE themselves, you're just standing around there as the people are gathering. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, get out of there.
They're getting ready for the show, bro. They're getting ready for the movie.
It's like
they don't. No one
out.
Realized, but they're the entertainment. Like ICE and the New York City Police Department doesn't realize what they're being put into. Like, to me, it's insane. You're the entertainment. You're the show.
Yeah.
You're the show. You're getting ready. They're going to make you look like a bunch of idiots right now. That they're going to make you walk down the block and escort these vans. And you don't even have the area right in front of there. You don't even have control of that area. How are you moving those vans when you don't have control of that area right now? Look at that. And if you look, it's not deep, dude. It's not. That is not a lot of people, bro.
No.
That
it's
is
like
not
they
a lot of
waited.
people.
Oh, 100% they waited. Oh, let's wait this. I mean, since when? And first of all, I read The Art of War 100 times. Since when do you allow your enemy, and they're the enemy at this point because they're protesting and potentially could get into it. They're already getting to a crowded position, putting you in a vulnerable position. When do you allow them to gather up and to outman you? Since when does the NYPD not take action immediately, cut off the head of the snake, and find out who's in charge of this and start taking action? No, exactly that. It's a show. Let's let it gather up. Let's build a show. I got to just make one comment. I think it's ridiculous that ICE is wearing masks. I'm totally against that. The NYPD, can you imagine NYPD guys all going out with masks? That's ridiculous. And the NYPD guys get doxxed more than anybody. That's stupid.
Yeah, I think it's all designed to elicit infighting. Keep that left versus right dynamic going. Yeah, this is when I see them all standing around there and waiting for the crowd. This reminds me of you get a collar, everybody shows up. You call the 85, and then everybody showed up. You finally got a perp in the car, and everybody's just hanging out there, standing around talking. And it's like, what are we doing here? Are we waiting for air meal to start getting thrown at us? Get the hell out of here. Everything is wrapped up. Let's go. Keep it moving. Yeah. And it's like, was there no boss around there to be like, hey guys, what are we doing here? Are we coming? Are we staying? Are we going? If we're staying, close up the damn garage and clear the crowd and go back inside the building and make them think you're gone. Or get in a car and drive away before the crowd gets bigger. But no, they're hanging out there like it wasn't a big deal when the crowd was small, and they're just hanging out there. This whole thing is like a farce,
And what the cops are thinking, right? Marlon, they're like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, why are we just standing here? Like, what are we doing? And they're waiting for direction. They're waiting because believe me, the cops will do their job. But they're waiting for leadership, and they zero guidance. They're standing around like, what do we do now? And now these cops have no choice but to take action because they're being pushed around. But they're all like, well, what do we do? And I even put them in handcuffs at this point. They're just pushing back and forth. Like, what is this, a Mexican standoff? This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
dude. And
what are the bosses doing?
Look at the amount of people. It's nobody. There's more reporters than there are protesters. I mean, and this is why the old adage is I'd rather be led by I'd rather have a lion lead sheep than have a sheep lead a bunch of lions, because they are being led by sheep right now. First of all, I don't even need a quarter of these people. You can get rid of a quarter of these resources, and the front of that building is going to be cleared. The front of that building is going to be cleared, and I'm going to have barriers all around it. No one is standing in that street. I don't even need a quarter of these resources to restore order. This is an inept response. New York City taxpayers should be infuriated right now, asking Jessica Tisch what she's doing. What are you doing? Why weren't there metal barriers interlocked? Why were people allowed in that street? Why? I mean, like this is like policing 101, and this isn't even a large amount of people. It's just not. Like, this is not hard to contain. This is an absolute joke. This was being allowed to happen. This was allowed to happen. Obviously, it was leaked. Whoever leaked it, who cares? I blame everybody. I blame the Trump administration. I blame the lefties in the New York City Police Department. I blame the lefties in the mayor's office. I blame everybody. There is no way this happens. There is no way. I mean, I don't care. I've done New Year's way too many times in my career where you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people. I showed up one year. I don't know if Ron's on. I think he might be busy today, but and I don't even know if he remembers the story, but I get 42nd and 8th. So for those of you that don't know, 42nd and 8th Avenue on Times Square is the busiest post in the world. I've had either the luck or the unluck to have had it in every single rank that I've attained in the New York City Police Department multiple times, 4, 2, and 8. So not the last time I get there, but one of the times I get there, I'm a sergeant in IAB. And I had done it as a cop. I had already done it as a supervisor. So I knew the whole setup of how it needed to happen, because you have just so much stuff there that, and by the nighttime, you're going to have like 1 million people trying to cross over from 4-2 over 8 to get down to go see the ball drop. Right. So that's like the focal point. You have the bus station there. You got train stations right there. So traditionally, what we would do is we would interlock barriers all along 8th Avenue, all the way down, and then all the way up 42nd into like the middle of the street and barrier them off, right? All metal interlock barriers. And then you would keep cops to keep people in those barriers to keep people out of the street. So like make them get on the sidewalk and make everyone keep moving, right? You just have them keep flowing out so it doesn't like people don't budging up and nobody's going to get trampled or anything like that. And the reason you would do that is so that you could allow the free flow of traffic, right? Like when as emergency vehicles are coming down, you could just open those barriers and let them right into that whole frozen zone, right? So I get there one year, and there's some captain from IAB, I forget his name, but he was a real loser. And I have it's me and 8 cops. So it's 1 and 8, and I have all wood barriers. So I approach him and I'm like, look, Cap, I'm like, this is not enough guys. I said, but it's fine. I said, but I just need metal barriers. We got to get rid of these wood barriers. Like, we're going to lose the street in 2 hours. And he goes, yeah, no, they got it. They got it that, it's wood barriers. I'm like, yeah, Cap. I was like, I don't know who they are. I was like, but I'm telling you right now, there's going to be 1 million people here in 2 hours. We're going to lose 8th Avenue. We're going to look like a bunch of idiots. We need metal barriers interlocked all down 8th Avenue, all the way up, and then we'll keep it. I'm like, the wooden barriers are going to push right over, and we're screwed. I said, even with the metal barriers, there's not enough cops here. I was like, I don't know who designed this plan, but it's terrible. And he looks at me like, who the F are you? And he walks away. So I was like, okay, no problem. So now, 2-3 hours later, all the crowds build up, the wooden barriers on the floor, and we completely lose 8th Avenue, and there's thousands of people there. So now Ron Layson shows up, and I told Ron Layson, I was like, look, I already told the inspector, I told the captain, I've had this post dozens of times. This is how we have to do it. We have to get the metal barriers. I was like, I don't even need more cops, but we need the metal barriers, and we need to interlock it the whole way on 5th. The whole way on 8th, all the way up 42nd, and then we keep cops posted there, and we keep. So because I was just going off. It wasn't that I came up with this. This was the system that was used for years, right? So I tell him, he goes, no problem. Calls, we get the metal barriers. Barrier truck comes. He gets. I think there were like 2 or 3 more sergeants and a lieutenant. So he gets like 40 more cops there. And we literally just arm in arm, we pick up the metal barriers, we create a line, we push everybody with the barriers onto the sidewalks, we interlock them all the way up to 42nd Street, and it was fine. We controlled the street. That was thousands and thousands of people. This is 60 people. Like, we don't need, and there's more resources right here than we had for that New Year's. It's disgraceful. It's just honestly disgraceful. It's honestly, they embarrassed all these cops, and they put them in a really bad situation. They put them in a really bad, dangerous situation. It's disgraceful. Jessica Tisch, you suck. Eric Adams, you suck. John Shell, if you were working too, you suck too.
Yeah, I think if there's one takeaway that everyone should understand from this is the longer a situation goes on, it's the odds are more likely things are going to go sideways and get out of control. So you got to make a decision quickly and get this resolved quickly before things get out of hand. Now you see their early video of the bosses just standing around, everybody's standing around, the cops are standing around, as ICE is still just standing around behind them. And it's like, what are we doing here? Why didn't the boss go up to ICE and tell him, hey guys, go back in the garage, please get out of here? The crowd obviously is getting riled up by the presence of ICE even being there. So get out of there. Why is everyone just standing around? It's like they're standing around waiting for somebody to make a decision. And were they waiting for a chief to make a decision? Because that whole red light, what is it? The red light, green light protest BS.
That settlement.
Because that at that point, that's no longer a protest, And in fact, was it a protest to begin with? Did they have a permit to do that? No. So why are we, why didn't somebody make a decision already? But again, this is the indecisiveness that's come from the job now, where like the boots on the ground, everything is centralized at the top, and nobody can make a decision in the precinct. Nobody can make a decision, everybody's waiting on orders to come from above, and it's just going to get people hurt.
Well, it's also this, and that's why I say at every level, leaders, and unfortunately for many of the NYPD and supervisors, have to take ownership. You have to take ownership at every rank. And just because you have rank, everyone's standing out there. If you have rank, that doesn't make you a leader or a supervisor. You're standing there with your rank. What I don't see is the supervisors and the leaders that are there with their boots on the ground communicating. There should have been some communicating, like, okay, what are we doing here right now? What is going on? Communicate with ICE. That's real leadership. What are we doing? What's the plan? What's going on? Or you know what? And then badger the upper echelon, right? Contact the incident commander or contact the commanding officer. What are we doing here? The crowd is gathering. It's getting larger. They're starting to push. What are we doing? Are we taking action because they're committing crime already? We have to shut this down. That's real leadership, not just by wearing your rank and standing there. At all ranks and all levels, they have to take action, and that's how they protect their men and women. Yes, I believe you, Marlon, you're 100% right. It is centralized, but they have to be communicative at that point. It takes some form of action. What are we doing here? We can't just stand around. We can't, because the crowd is just gathering, and it's getting worse, and it's escalating. We often hear about de-escalation, and sometimes the de-escalation is taking immediate action.
Yeah, they're lucky airmail didn't start coming at them.
Well,
or bricks.
It's crazy, dude. I mean, it's honestly, it's really dangerous situation. All right, anything else before we get out of here? Look, there's so much that happened these past couple of days since Thursday. I think, one show we definitely got to touch on is Zohran Mondani's his picks for his public safety transition team. We definitely got to get into that at some point, because I think that's a real show of where the New York City Police Department's headed. And I'll just real briefly, I don't see much different from Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams again, but we'll get into all those picks and what they're looking to do. I don't see really anything different at this point. The last thing, I think, just real quick, we just had Deputy Chief Brian Bohannon. I think that's how you say his name. And then recently promoted Inspector Hippolito Gill. He literally got promoted. He put in his papers the next day to leave. And Bohannon, if any of you guys know him, he's a real baby face, young looking guy. But both of those guys are like really well respected in the New York City Police Department. And Gill just making inspector isn't even like officially at 20 yet. He's like under 20. And that again just shows the state of the NYPD and NYPD leadership, because you got two young guys in those ranks. Like I said before, you never had lieutenants like me. I think I was the first lieutenant ever that left the job with a FU at 18 years. Like, just never happened. And then after me, there's been so many lieutenants, and then there were captains, but you never had inspectors and chiefs leaving prior to 20. Just never would happen. You couldn't even imagine it, because these people are like kings, and they in particular are well liked by the rank and file of the NYPD. And so it's a big blow to the NYPD, to the rank and file, to morale, but it just shows the overall state of the NYPD even further when you got guys like that leaving. And it's really sad, man. As much as people say we hate the job, we bash the job, I don't think we do. I think we love the job. I think we tell the truth about the job. And I think that, I think that it's disgraceful that people like that are retiring young, and it just shows the state of New York City and where we're headed. Yeah,
I think that especially like Bohannon, right? Bohannon, if you remember, he was the one that the 106 precinct did that whole little skit about him being the commander. Remember, he came into the precinct. It was like,
and he was like the king or whatever. Yeah.
The cops. Yeah. Here comes the king, and he swoops in with his car and walks in the precinct, and like they're all bowing down to him. So, and here's a guy basically who had a video of talk about in the NYPD, when you have leadership, it's almost like you become a king, and he's acting it out, and he left the job. So that just gives you the state indication of what's going on. It all went to shit, man. I'm glad to be where I'm at. Glad to be retired. I don't miss it. I miss the guys, but I don't miss this clown show.
Yeah, well, you can see where they're coming from in a case like this, where it's like obviously, I'm sure the precinct commanders were told, don't have the precinct respond to, or let's not arrest too many people. Let's be hands off a little. So you could kind of see where they're coming from. It probably frustrate anybody in that leadership role who wants to do something, but since power is all centralized at one PP, you can't, which is the exact opposite of a police department we should have. We should have everybody, everybody from the sector on up to the precinct command and above being able to make decisions on their own without, having to call one PP for everything.
Yeah, I think it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Coffee and donuts?
There's a sergeant who got three courts from COVID fog memory. It's insane, bro. It's honestly, it's insane because I definitely got COVID fog memory, and I can't even breathe as a result of that. Like it's insane, dude.
I don't know if you heard, but some guy retired for an ankle. Not sure which ankle.
Without surgery, right?
Yeah, some fat guy.
Some fat guy, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the coffee and donuts and hit the road. So we got Frankie Pagliucci. Shout out to you, brother. Frankie was actually at one of the Sliwa rallies. I meant to take a photo with him, but we got to hang out soon. I'll be back in New York in a couple of weeks, not even. So I can't believe it's December already. So he says the leadership is completely burnt out. I don't even think there's leadership anymore, dude. I really don't. I think they're just taking everything from City Hall and just that's what we do, It's told yours back when retired chief of department, and then he spells out fatso. He or she. All banging Germany, Stacy to he. Okay, I don't know. We're all my dungans. Santa, it's Christmas. Dono guns? What am I missing? Sound?
I don't know. It's a cup of coffee. Take it.
Dono guns.
I got COVID fog too. I'm not understanding that one. They also say that guy gives techno Viking water. What's that? I don't know what that is.
You don't know the techno Viking?
No, what is that?
It's an old meme of this like a Norwegian guy who has like the beard, the Viking beard with braided, and then he's walking. He apparently he was protecting the they had like this procession, right? The annual thing in like one of these Norwegian countries where they walk on the street, and this guy was protecting the women in the crowd, and he was like pushing off guys trying to come on to the women, and then out of nowhere he starts breaking into this like techno dance, He's this tough looking dude, and all of a sudden he's doing this techno dance. It's a famous meme, one of the first memes on the internet back in like 2007. But it's entertaining,
Well, if it's a meme, I'll take your word for it.
That's why Marlon's official title in the Finest Unfiltered is Chief Meme Officer, but we don't. Yeah.
Hey, Marlon, since you're a chief, maybe how your ankles feeling?
Yeah.
So funny. Mon Samurai says, "Morning, gents. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Really sad to see what has happened to the department. Just hope everyone stays safe out there. Great show today. Thank you, sir." Mon Samurai.
Well, take it. Dozen donuts.
It's told back. I told you so back when. I don't know why I can't say that. Shell is so tacky talking about his pension. Yeah, it's honestly, dude, it's
loser.
Yeah, it's definitely tiring. So, all right, guys. Yeah, Wednesday. I don't think we booked anybody for Wednesday yet. We definitely got to get into that those picks. So maybe we'll do a show Wednesday. Maybe we'll have someone on. See what happens with that. I don't know who Sal has on tomorrow. I know 10-4 Tavern put it out, and I apologize, Tom, but the COVID brain fog's kicking in, and I can never remember. I can never remember who 10-4 Tavern has on, and then as always on Wednesday, Executive Perspective, of course. So, all right, you guys got
what time is Executive Perspective? I can't remember what time.
Don't confuse me. It's my brain fog. I gotta prepare for that one. 17:05 or 5:05 p.m. Eastern
John,
time.
we gotta give you cue cards, so you know.
Oh, Tom says it right here. They're having John Cornecilio, Brooklyn North Homicide, and Mike Marino's guest hosting. Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be a great show. That'll be good.
Yeah,
So Chief Marino will be guest hosting, and John Cornecilio, Brooklyn North Homicide. That's going to be good. Yeah, I think Pete's on vacation this week. So
Yeah, I just got a word that somebody was set on fire again on the subway today.
oh my God, really?
Yeah, craziness.
In New York
I haven't
City?
seen it, heard anything about it yet, but yeah, that isn't that wouldn't that be like a third one in like maybe a year and a half now? But
how could that be? Crime's down.
yeah, but I saw a segment. We put up a segment a couple was it yesterday or 2 days ago, and we mentioned Nighthawk in there. I haven't seen Nighthawk in the comments lately. If anybody knows Nighthawk, I hope he's all right. We just, huh?
Nighthawk 13666.
Yeah, he used to be a regular here. Maybe it's just me, but I haven't seen him a lot in his comments. So if anybody knows of Nighthawk, just I hope he's all right. Thank you guys for joining us today. We had thanks for the chat and our regulars in the chat for having a great having a very lively chat today. And I'll see you guys on Friday. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to mention that. Thank you so much for the our friends and listeners, but to those the regulars that you really spend a lot of time with us almost every show, we really appreciate it. And you take a lot of time to sit and watch and your comments and engage us. I really appreciate it. So, and I hope everyone had an awesome Thanksgiving. I know now we're preparing for Christmas and the holidays and getting ready for the new year. So thank you, everyone. The network is really growing, and a lot of that is because of you, our friends and listeners, the engagement. So I really appreciate it. You guys really help us out. So please don't forget, go over to the finestunfiltered.com, check out the newsletter, check out the articles. And if you want to put out your own article, please do so. We'll vet it, obviously, but put out an article, and it's important to hear all the opinions, not just ours. Our friends and listeners, very important. So thank you to everyone. A lot of good shows this week. We had a nice long weekend, and as we had taken Friday off, so there's a lot of news, a lot of information. So shout out to everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for the coffee and donuts, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Last thing before we run. So Marlon was right. Somebody was set on fire in Times Square. I don't have all the details. We'll talk about that later in the week, probably on Friday. Times Square train station. Insane. And just so everyone here knows we're not crazy, here's City Councilman Bob Holden basically says exactly what we were saying on here. So this is Democrat Councilman Bob Holden. Here's what he says. This was a disgrace. He's talking about the protest, right? He's talking about what we just talked about. How was this allowed to happen? How did these so-called protesters know ICE would be at the location at the exact time? Why were anarchists allowed to throw materials at law enforcement and shut down streets without an immediate, forceful response? Why was the NYPD presence so limited and ineffective from the start? This is not a protest. It is chaos. I fully support the men and women of the NYPD and all law enforcement who showed up and did their jobs. What I do not support is leadership at all levels, including elected officials, putting our officers in harm's way to play politics. These reckless decisions are going to lead to a disaster if they don't change. New Yorkers deserve answers and real accountability. Shout out to Councilman Bob Holden, because he nailed it. That was perfectly said, perfectly stated. And I think that wraps up exactly what we all were saying on here. That was a disgraceful response.
Yeah. So to answer the point of our thumbnail, are they pawns? Certainly looks so. Because that response was very inadequate and on many levels, and there was no decision making there, and there was no leadership there coming from either side. So
yep, it's the tangible law enforcement officers with their boots on the ground that are political pawns, as the crowd can get to them and actually create chaos. So with that being said, the Finest Unfiltered, everyone, thank you so much. Another great show. We appreciate it. Thanks for the engagement. See you soon.
All right, Shell, have a great day, bro.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?